by the sound of violence.
UTech, you're the UFC. What PR moves can you make to protect the doctor who stopped the UFC 244 BMF main event match last Saturday night?
You know what? That doctors in general, because I think we could have some total fun with this. Because you remember, I can't say you remember because I'm not saying you guys are that old or that I'm that old either, but we go back to during the bubonic plague times.
Oh, I remember those days!
I remember that.
Oh.
The bird mask,
Yes.
the long thing.
Where is it? I have one around here somewhere.
And last time I saw one of those masks, it was like at a sex party. It was really eerie. I don't know why the guy had it on. Yeah, it wasn't like that.
Oh,
He had a
wasn't
long,
That was mine. That
long
was my
beak.
bird mask.
You put that on your head? I don't know what's going on with that bird there.
It's part of my
Ah,
daughter's
looks like-
Halloween
Oh,
costume.
he's playing a pirate.
Arrgh.
But you know, you could have them wear a plague mask when they go into the ring in order to check people out so they don't get threatened. And it would add a lot of drama. They should wear the coats and everything.
Oh!
Ring girls,
Identity concealing.
Yes.
Right.
It would be creepy.
They
and
should do
fun.
that. That's perfect.
Yeah, I would totally be about it. Like, get rid of the ring girls, bring in the plague doctor. Who's there with them?
What up, everybody, and welcome back to yet another Sound of Violence podcast. We are an MMA podcast to let you know the MMA podcast you should catch, skip, and can't miss each week. I am Pulver, and I am back yet again with my co-host, Chris Madaffer. What up, dude?
Yeah. It's good to be back. I may or may not be doing a satanic ritual in my house, so ignore the background noise.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Chris lives with Satanists. We've had multiple on the show.
Yeah, hail Satan, hail Baphomet.
That's right.
All those guys, Lucifer, I think they all go under one moniker. You know what? Hail Cthulhu, too, while we're at it.
Yeah. No, I fucked with tentacle monsters and whatnot.
But yeah, either way, if you hear any weird stuff in the background, that's Satan doing his work. Anyways, that's not important. What's important is we're both back together.
Yeah, we are. Finally.
I had some really, really fun Windows 10 2-hour, 3-hour updates. What was that, last week?
Yeah, that's right. Last week, Chris and I went to go live, and I told him to restart his computer. Classic mistake. And Windows pushed about 4 or 5 hours worth of updates on you.
Yeah. So should we quickly have a brief recap of 244, or should we? Because I know we're supposed to be doing a recap of this Russian card.
Yeah, you know what? We'll do a little bit of a 244 recap along with the Russian card, since I don't have a lot to say about the Russian card because I don't know. Y'all probably saw it.
Yeah, I saw. I think I saw about half of it. I think I saw like the main card.
It's probably more than you needed to watch to be.
I think I saw like the last 3 or 4 fights in a row.
Yeah,
and then that was about it.
Well, why don't we go ahead and we'll start off in format, and then we will get to that. But why don't you start us off with our Popov Vodka presents, Doug Stanhope presents, our sponsors. What are you drinking on this week?
It is a very good West Coast / English IPA from New English called Pure and Simple. I know it's made an appearance here before on the show.
Yeah, it's a great like crisp, citrusy, refreshing IPA.
It's a proper crispy boy. Fuck all the watered down bullshit that you see those internet memes try to pimp out when they call crispy boys, which are just basically Coors, I guess, or just some bullshit like. But like, no,
I guess, yeah,
it's just garbage. Like, just don't. I mean, I get it. If you live like in some sort of dry state where there's no craft beer, then you're fucked. Sorry.
What state is that at this point in 2019? Every state has good beer at this point. Every state has Stone, at least.
Someone was telling me Texas is pretty dry, but then they mentioned Austin is very, very hipstery now. So
also, there's like St. Bernardus and a bunch of great fucking breweries.
That's what I thought. So I don't know what they're. I think you'd be hard pressed to not find craft beer, right? At this point in any state,
you may have to go out of your way more in some than others, but. And of course, we are the most spoiled on the planet when it comes to craft beer. But
even fucking Rhode Island probably at least has Dogfish Head, which is based in Delaware.
Rhode Island,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, New England has a bunch of great breweries because that's where all the hazies came from. So
exactly, you got fucking Clown Shoes, you got Alchemist in Vermont, you got it's just so many good ones.
Yeah,
so.
in New York, you got of course the fucking classic Treehouse.
Yeah, so yeah, we're spoiled in the U.S., man. You go to all corners of the country, and you're good, man. I'm trying to think. Like off the top of my head, I don't know what's in Mississippi or anything like that, or maybe in Arkansas, but there's got to be some stuff there.
There
You know what I mean?
I can't think of it off the top of my head. But there are a couple breweries I've had beers from that are very good from around there. I want to say that I can't remember the name of the IPA. There's an IPA from Sweetwater.
Or like in Oklahoma. Yeah, I'm trying to say maybe like that Midwesty kind of.
Dude, even the Midwest is blowing up at this point because you can grow hops in a lot of those places. So
that's true, especially in Boise, Idaho. You know, all those really good hop farms.
Exactly.
I remember I went to a couple. I have family out there in Boise. This is years ago, but I remember I went to some pretty breweries, man. So yeah, it's like we said, it's blown up everywhere. Like you said, despite our best interests, we're not a beer podcast as much as we try to be. Right?
That's right. Although I am going to continue the beer talk. Speaking of how we're spoiled in San Diego, I'm drinking an Owl Farm beer, which I've never even heard of this brewery.
They're under Booze Brothers in Vista.
Are they under Booze? So I knew they were in Vista. I didn't know they're part of Booze Brothers.
They are part of Booze Brothers. That's their little. That's like their nano brewery, if you want to call it that. And can I guess that you're having either a peach Brett, a cranberry raspberry like mocha thing, or a fruit medley?
Ooh, you're so close on all three, but no, I am having the Mai Tai fruit beer, evidently, which is very tropical. I'm also having it in a sweet tiki glass I got on Amazon. I got a pack for like fucking, I don't know, super cheap. I think for $20 I got 4 coasters and 4 highball glasses.
Is it a Berliner Weiss? Because I know a lot of the Mai Tai beers are.
Yeah, it seems like it's probably along those lines. It doesn't say specifically, I don't think. Oh, God, trying to read this without any backlight is not making this easier. They're talking about cocktails on it. It's definitely, yeah, it seems like it's probably along the Berliner Weiss line. I'm assuming it's probably kettle soured, just based on the flavors I'm getting off of it. But they're saying, let's see, pomegranate, lime, orange, pineapple, all went into the base beer. So either way, it's definitely tasty and appreciated because it's pretty warm still out here in San Diego.
I'm gonna have to try that, yeah, because the only Mai Tai beer I've had was from Abnormal. They called it Tiki something, which is it was a Berliner Weiss and Mai Tai flavor. That one was good. And then another brewery that just came out for this beer week was Kilowatt. They did a double tiki flavored. They did tiki flavored hazy double IPA.
That doesn't surprise me because pro tip for anybody in San Diego, I heard 2 crazy things actually. I went to I need to grab that painting off the wall. So Gilbert, the guy who we always shout out in the notes on all the podcasts, who did the painting of Leslie Smith for us. He also did the dope painting of Seamus I have, and he did a painting of the devil dog I have, Tilly, as Griselda Blanca, which is fucking amazing. But we were hanging out at Society not that long ago, and I found out that evidently the building that Kilowatt is in is being sold. I think it's like being torn down in a couple years, which is pretty fucking crazy. But the other thing I learned is Kilowatt also has a secret tiki bar that is all beer cocktails, no hard booze, which I definitely want to go check out. So we may have to do that shit.
That piques my interest for sure. That's interesting.
Yeah. So when I was there last time, there was a chick in the back. I was hanging out with her girlfriend. Who is hilarious, but the chick in the back who's doing all the construction, I'm now realizing was building a tiki bar, and no one told me. So,
was this at the location like Claremont?
Yeah, the Kearny Mesa one, right down the street from Society. So
okay.
Yeah, if you guys are in San Diego, go hit up. I think it's Forbidden SD. I think is the here. Let me look it up. ForbiddenSD.com. I think is the. Nope, that is not it. Forbidden Kilowatt. Yeah, it was in the West Coaster. I think I saw it. I can't find their website, but if you Google Forbidden West Coaster, or Kilowatt West Coaster, it'll show up. But yeah, I'm excited to check that place out. But anyway, not a beer podcast, despite our best efforts. Although, oh, good God, we're close. But why don't we go ahead and get into format, since it is a rare Sunday night recording, since our schedules have been all over the place. Not only that, Chris told me he worked from noon to 8 today, and he was like, do you want to record at 8:30 or 9? And so, of course, I woke up at 8:30 in the morning being like, yo, you ready, bro? And he's like, yeah, 12 hours from now. So
yeah, I remember I was up at 8, and then I saw a text. I was like, oh shit, he thought in the morning. I'm like, I should clarify.
As soon as I sent the first text, I was like, fuck, I bet I know what I did.
Yeah, that was my bad.
No, that's my bad. But
either way, I never work on Sundays. I know you know this, so that was just I just needed the extra hours. So because my water bill was high this month.
Shocking, right?
Yeah.
Having a pool in a desert is a motherfucker, right?
Just a little bit. Yeah, that reminds me. I need to get a pool cover because it's fall. And all this shit is starting to, all the pollen is starting to rain down in the water. It's
there's enough
not that anyone would be going to the pool anyway, because we don't have a heated pool, but it's you don't want it to look nasty. So
to be fair, one of y'all will get drunk and end up in it here before too long, I'm sure.
Oh, I've already done it. I was like, hey, I'm sore. I need to be cold. And I was like, time to just be cold, and heal. Basically in a fucking cryo chamber that's not a cryo chamber.
Yeah. That is often what I refer to cold pools as, is ghetto cryo chambers for sure.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, we'll go ahead and get into format. So as you guys know, we always talk about the MMA podcast to catch, skip, and can't miss each week. There is in the description for the episode, if it's not on the podcast player you use, if you go to thesoundofviolence.com, you can see the full show notes where we have links to every single show we talk about. Before we get into it, there is a little bit of MMA podcast news. Fight Court is going to be off this week because King Mo fought. And King, unfortunately, so I say that happened, then the announcement happened on Wednesday or so. King Mo has since fought and did not go his way, unfortunately. But I don't know if he's going to take this week off as well, but that's something to keep an eye on. Also, shouts out to every single podcast that loved to talk about the BMF title this week, but would never say the word motherfucker, because I see y'all, and it's a lot of you.
It's because of ESPN.
No, it's podcasts. Like a lot of podcasts.
Oh, are you talking about podcasts or saying that? Oh,
I'm
sorry. All I heard was BMF. I thought you were talking about how ESPN won't want to, because I get it, because they don't want it, because you know how they showed the Octagon interview and they don't want to.
What does it matter if Derek Lewis is talking about putting his hand through people's booty holes and
on their chest? Yeah.
But
yeah.
Oh my God. Anyway, yeah. Just shouts to all the podcasts who don't have sponsors that care about swearing, but also refuse to say motherfucker when talking about the BMF belt. Thought that was adorable this week. Also, there was a podcast. Eugene S. Robinson's Show Stomper is going to be off, it sounds like, for a couple weeks. So that's the only podcast news I had. Oh, and one last thing. Huge news. TJ DeSantis and the Between Rounds radio network is going to start going back on SureDog, doing live post-fight and post-fight episodes that they're going to live stream through SureDog and the Beatdown After the Bells, and they're also going to start doing the roundtables on SureDog, I believe, as well. So that's huge news. They're going to start having more people on SureDog on there, which I'm assuming means a lot more Ant Walker, which I'm very, very excited about. So that's kind of a huge, huge announcement and something to definitely keep an eye out on.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Anything that involves more Ant Walker, I'm all on board for. Of course, if you guys don't know, Ant Walker, famous as being a longtime intern and show host on the SureDog Radio Network back in the day, and currently hosting the Trenches MMA on SureDog. So super excited about that. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into format. Why don't you start people off with the MMA podcast you recommend they catch this week?
I would definitely say Heavy Hands. This was, for the rushing. Okay, so this one, my notes are all over the place because I had notes about the Russian card, but they also recap 244.
Yep, it was episode 289.
So I don't know how we do this because technically this is like a double recap.
Yeah, that's the one weird thing about recording on Sundays is everything was half.
I'll just say this: catch this, and then I think I'll just kind of give my. So this is what they thought about 244. They said Masvidal beat the shit out of Nate Diaz for 3 rounds, and they don't think much would have changed in rounds 4 or 5. I tend to agree. I know there's the narrative out there. I'll say this. Honestly, there's fanboys for every fighter that's big. McGregor fanboys are bad. I also think Diaz fanboys are pretty bad, as far as like the actual like stands, right? And the reason why I say this is I saw this narrative of like, oh, someone like took a picture of Masvidal at the end of round 3, and they're like, oh, he's so gassed, he would have been knocked out. Like, first of all, Nate Diaz hasn't finished someone past the 4th round, I don't believe ever. I'm not saying he couldn't do that. Of course, it's possible, but it's like just based on, in my opinion, where Masvidal trains, who his coaches are, and what he's done in the past. He's never been knocked out in the UFC. He's at ATT. You really think he's going to try to stand in the pocket or clinch and just trade shots with Nate Diaz in the 4th or 5th round when he's up 3-0? Like, come on, dude. He's going to fucking stand back, fucking get a single leg, take Nate Diaz down again, and just kind of just do it. You know what I mean? I was just kind of laughing at this narrative. Like, oh, Nate Diaz had him where he wanted. It's like, I don't know, man. You know how many fucking body kicks to the liver Diaz was taking? Like, that was a fucking ass beating, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Well, it was bad.
And as far as I know, the last time Jorge Masvidal was finished via strikes was Rodrigo Dom back in 2008.
Yeah, and that was like in the WEC, I think.
No, way before that. It was like some regional shit, if I remember right. Sengoku 3.
But either way, like it's cool when people have their fans, and I don't want to say the term fanboy, but I was seeing some of this shit. I was like, dude, you have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. Like, I was telling someone, like, dude, he's at ATT. Like, there's no way he's gonna be like, hey, I'm up 3-0. Let me just go ahead and try to trade shots. Like, no one's doing that.
To be fair, though,
is it possible? Yeah. Like, I like Diaz's game plan. He's a very good forward pressure striker. He could put Masvidal up against fence for sure. But I feel like at any time Masvidal feels danger, he's gonna take Diaz down.
Yeah,
he has better wrestling. I mean, we already saw that at the end of the 3rd round.
And he definitely had more power too. The one thing that's kind of interesting though is Jorge, while he was not slowing down 100%, he definitely was like getting into coasting I'm ahead Jorge mode, which
he was 100%.
And that is like he was always going to drop that 5th round if it went to the 5th round, just because. I mean, unless Nate was just so battered at that point, he wasn't able to hang via the leg kicks or the body shots. Which, by the way, I just counted. I even talked about last week how I didn't see that Jorge was going to be able to, or that either one of them was going to throw mini kicks at all. I was super right. They wouldn't throw a lot of leg kicks. However, Jorge Masvidal with the fucking death body kicks over and over again, and that soccer kick he hit.
I was gonna say, how many other people does that knock out?
Everyone.
Fucking that was like, I remember I was with Trevor. Is like, dude, like he was like, dude, here comes the finish. Like, I was like, okay, maybe Diaz getting fouled. Like, he looks like he's
finishing a Diaz brother on their back.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it kind of looked like he could have been finished. I mean, he wasn't, obviously, but it's like just based on how that was going. I was like, oh, fuck. So,
yeah.
Either way, my quick review is a hell of a performance by Masvidal. As far as what he does in that division, if I'm him, I just wait for the winner of Marty and fucking Colby, I guess. Even though it's like, that's just. That fight, oh god damn it!
It should be Leon Edwards next, but
really should, yeah. And I think Masvidal fucks Leon. He doesn't fuck him up because Leon Edwards is gonna just try to wrestle him. But I think I think he does fuck him up now though, just because you and I, of course, know since we already know how good Masvidal's wrestling is. He's definitely building because Edwards is maybe 2 inches taller. He's only 3 inches taller.
Yeah, but Edwards blends everything so fucking well, dude.
Yeah. How do you think that fight goes? Who would you take in decision? I could see Edwards winning against Masvidal.
I would take Edwards all day in that fight.
Yeah.
I mean,
I could see Masvidal striking be a problem though too. Pretty much for anyone in that division.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Jorge Masvidal, which we've talked about for a while, one of the best defensive strikers, especially when it comes to boxing of all time, probably. But yeah, man, crazy fucking fight. But yeah, back to this heavy hands episode. It was really, really solid. I did enjoy that a lot of people complained that they're like, hey, not enough recaps. Evidently enough people reached out to Connor that he specifically mentioned that they want more recap talk on the podcast, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm glad whoever suggested that said that. It's always kind of nice to have that, maybe whether it's in the beginning of your sort of segment, or because I know they usually just they have their cold open, they kind of discuss what they're going to talk about, then they literally just jump right in, which is fine.
Well, it kind of depends on what the card looks like too. Like for example, obviously they're going to do a bigger preview on 244 than they're going to do a recap on the week before, or like next week. I would assume there's not going to be a huge UFC Moscow recap for good fucking reason.
But by the way, really quickly, just to end on 244, I know there's a bunch of other good fights. What did you think about Darren Till's middleweight debut?
It was interesting.
I'll say that I think he did. I think he looked good, and he did what he had to do to win via just the point scoring system.
I also think Calvin didn't show up.
That too. I also was impressed by Till's chin. Because he did get clocked pretty hard on one of Calvin's left straights. It was hit pretty clean on the jaw, and Till just kind of stood there.
Yeah.
So I think Till did a good job preparing. I did score the fight for Till.
Yeah,
based on what we saw. Whoever scored it 30-27, that judge needs to
be taken out back and put down old Willie or free. Not free.
Old Yeller.
Yeah.
Old Yeller.
Free Willie
was almost. Free Willie was almost nice. He was almost Terry Schiavo, so it's all good. It was pretty close. So, yeah. Yeah, and I saw you see who wants to fight Till next, right?
Yeah, Whitaker, right?
Yeah, have fun.
I love that fight, but that's no one in Till's camp should allow that fight to happen.
No,
that is horrible. He should fight like Magny Magny's not 85.
No, he should fight like Derek Brunson or some shit.
Yeah,
he already beat Gastelum.
Absolutely.
He already beat Gastelum. That's the problem. See, it's like there never should be a problem with you beating someone high ranked, but the problem is that you beat someone who's like number 4. Yeah. So now you have to fight 1 through 3, and now you're fucked.
To be fair, we don't know. I guess we still.
We don't know. What if he knocks out Whitaker? Hell, what if he even beats Romero? We don't know. I doubt it, but.
Well, and also Romero and Whitaker have gone through a lot of fucking rough fights lately. Like, at a certain point, you gotta question how dudes are able to hang.
And what's crazy is Till, he looked massive at 185. He'd be bigger.
He did, but Calvin's never looked big at that weight class.
Oh, I know. He looked. He actually towel gate, lean gate, whatever, Rafael Cordell gate, whatever you want to call that.
Oh, also, let's not add the word gate to everything. I'm with Chad Dundas.
I know, right?
It's fucking garbage.
Thank you, Nixon, right, for starting the whole thing.
Absolutely.
Way back when.
Jesus Christ. Also, shout out to the movie Dick. That's underrated. With Reese Witherspoon. Yeah. It's real good. I should watch that again. It's been a while. Anyway, yeah, Heavy Hands episode 289 was really good. I really, I liked a lot. There's a couple things they mentioned that I kind of played into the fights this weekend. Like, they mentioned Kattar's tendency to chase the head a bit much, which definitely was a bit of a problem in the main event. I feel like if he went to the body, he might have been able to slow down the beat a little bit more. But we'll get to that later, of course.
Yeah.
And then a lot after that, we talked about they did talk how Stephen Thompson is like one of the toughest people in the sport. Just like chin-wise, heart-wise, all that shit. Like, when you think the bludgeonings Stephen Thompson survived from Tyron Woodley alone, it's insane. And then to go through the Darren Till fight, not the Darren Till fight, the Vicente Luque fight, and take some big shots, but just outclass him point to point was crazy.
That was one of the best beatdowns I've seen in a while, especially because, like, I remember we've all said, when's this guy gonna let his hands fly? Well, there it was, folks. When you literally saw him, you literally saw him let his hands fly, and it looked great.
Yeah, he had talked about that on.
He looked really good when he let. And yes, was he susceptible to getting hit when he gets up close? And he wasn't dirty boxing when he gets up close in like clinch range. Yeah, he was getting popped, and that's the problem with being a counter striker. If you get in close, you can get hit too. But when he was letting his hands fly from distance, he was piecing Luque the fuck up. He had that sniping. He had a good glide. He looked really good, and it was kind of fun seeing kind of like that. It's crazy because that dude's like 37, which I didn't even realize, and Luque is like 27, 28. Like, what the fuck? So.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, and that's actually something that Stephen Thompson had talked about on the Coast to Coast Combat Hour with Matt Hawkins and Oh my god, I'm gonna have a panic attack. Ed Carbazal. I almost forgot Ed's name. I could see him in my head. I couldn't say it out loud. The donut guy on the East Coast, who's good friends with Nolan. But Ed and Matt talked a lot about that with Stephen Thompson, about how he's intentionally trying to push more of a pace and be more of an offensive fighter. That's something he talked about going into the fight against Pettis, and he had success in that fight up until Pettis caught him with a flying elbow off the cage or whatever crazy shit.
Flying Superman punch.
It wasn't even a punch; it was a hook, which is even weirder. But yeah, just wild. So it was cool to see Stephen Thompson be able to push that pace and just kind of work a very different game than we had seen from him previously, but still piece apart Luque over time. And then the other note I had about heavy hands, which I don't know if you caught this as well, which they talked to Phil McKenzie. I'm not even gonna spoil it because it's so fucking good, but I'll just say Phil McKenzie talks about how Derek Lewis is destroying his greatest talent by becoming a patient, like, paced fighter, which I really enjoyed. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I'm recording.
Also, I don't know if you guys know, but Chris is recording.
I know. You can tell.
Yeah, that's all I had on heavy hands. Did you have anything else you wanted to touch on that?
They just said they think Whitaker destroys Till.
I mean, it's just a bad style matchup.
They also said if Greg Hardy beats Volkov, then heavy hands is officially over. I thought that was funny.
I mean, to be fair, yeah.
Spoiler alert, he did not. So we're good.
Shocking. Also, I don't know who you're talking about. I do know that Volkov fought some can that nobody knows the name
of.
He
fought Mr. Albuterol. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, but Volkov beat the shit out of an inhaler, from what I heard.
Yeah, Mr. Albuterol. Yeah, that's the steroid that's inside most inhalers.
Oh yeah,
I would know.
We got it. Also, yeah.
Or QVAR. There's a bunch of them.
I appreciate that you doubled down on the word steroid during that sentence.
Oh no, it's
pretty good.
Hey, no bones about it. You gotta do what you gotta do.
That's right. You've taken the steroid that is albuterol, so you're well aware of it. You're like the Eugene S. Robinson of this shit. You've done it, so you can talk about it.
I would piss hot back in the day.
On that note, it's actually a great segue. My catch this week is If I Did It, UFC 244, the BMF Fallout, which was really solid. It's just a great episode. Ms. Tech, of course, is now the regular co-host with Alexi Ald and Eugene S. Robinson. Just a really fucking solid episode. If you guys are not familiar with the show, they give PR advice to the MMA world, not beyond, as Alexi would say. The first question they covered was your Dana White, giving your financial interest in pay-per-view buy rates. Walk us through your PR plans for increasing the return on your BMF investment. Which was a funny one and interesting to hear. They talk about whether running it back is the right call and especially when it comes to fan interest. And Eugene almost has a breakdown, which is a lot of fun to watch, just like of him disagreeing so hard but trying not to interrupt, which is always fun. Talk about a lot about Nate not having the eyebrow surgery that Nick and Wanderlei had, and it sounds like Nate's probably going to have that surgery from the little bit of information.
I was going to say at this point, based on just the scar tissue buildup alone he has, there's probably a surgery where you can get rid of the excess skin or some.
Well, it's not just that they actually shaved down from what I understand about it anyway, from between Rogan's podcast and. I forget who else talked about it this week, but essentially they shave down actually the bone of your eyebrow.
I was gonna say, part of your brow.
To make it less likely to graze the inside skin, which is fucking crazy. It's fucking science.
I see. So they go inside the where this would be. They shave down the bone, so that means there's more skin around it. But the bone's less. I see. So that means when someone punches you, the skin's not gonna hit the bone as early as it would because you're. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. That's kind of smart.
Well, and Nick and Wanderlei both had way less cuts after they had that surgery too. But just crazy to hear it talked about. So we'll see what that actually looks like going forward. But the real reason why this was a catch this week, or one of my main reasons, was so they brought up, hey, you're the UFC. What moves do you make to protect the doctor in the main event? And as you guys heard on the intro, Ms. Tech suggests maybe the greatest thing of all time. The greatest solution to saving doctor's identity if you're going to hide a doctor's identity. I don't normally support that if they're going to be a doctor who's covering a fight. because it can lead to like lack of transparency. However, if you're going to obscure who the doctor is, I agree, they should absolutely be wearing plague masks, as she suggests.
Yep.
So I think it's fucking hilarious. And
That's awesome.
And just, I believe her quote was, "Get rid of ring girls, get plague doctors," which, fuck yeah, I'm totally on board.
I am as well. I second that motion. That's hilarious and appropriate.
I also appreciated how Eugene was convinced that 80% of the death threats to the doctor are coming from Raider Nation.
That checks out 100%.
It super does, right? Like NorCal and Raider Nation and Diaz fans combine into a crazy like lather of anger. So I appreciated that for sure. But yeah, it was just a really good episode. If I did it, I can't recommend it highly enough. It's If the Shoes Fit is their YouTube channel where you can check it out. As always, link in the description and all that. Did you have any other MMA podcasts to catch this week?
No, because I barely have any notes. I mean, I do have the one podcast you texted me about. Did you listen to this one?
We'll get to that one in a minute. But
yeah, I had about a little old country, east of the UK.
Is that where it is? Because I don't know what state is to
or
the
west
east
of the UK. Sorry, my geography is clearly off.
Dude, I'm kidding. I think it's
France.
east of the Wait. Well, you
know
know
it's
what?
100% west of the UK.
I'm not going to correct you because
It's west.
I don't know what state is east of California, so we'll go ahead and move on from there.
I mean, if you've been to Vegas, there's a clue.
But not always. Depends on where you're at in California, bro.
No, yes, always. It's either
Is it
southeast
really?
or northeast.
Shit.
Yes, that's
see what
yes.
So
you take the 5.
I'd like to officially state I was right when I said I don't know what state is to the east of California. But actually, I know for a fact this podcast records out of the east of California. My other catch this week is MMA Ratings, episode 141, because I'm pretty sure Schwan Humes is in Texas somewhere. But this is Schwan Humes, and
I'll give you another clue. The only state west of us is Hawaii.
Well, I knew that one. That was... technically, Alaska is to the west of us, right? I mean,
we're like
technically from where
north,
we're at, so is Washington and Oregon, to be fair. But
I mean, yeah, you just say far, 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 far west, right? Instead of just east. So yeah, that works.
Bro, at a certain point, if you go west enough, it's...
But then again, far, 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 far west would be Japan, and then it gets confusing. So.
Exactly. Anyway, MMA Ratings episode 141 was very solid. There was just a couple, like, I appreciate the show a lot because they're so good at technique breakdowns. I believe it's I always fuck up dude's name. I think it's Raphael who hosts with Schwan. I hope I'm not fucking up Raphael's name. I'm 99% positive I'm not, but Brazil and Portuguese is kind of broken R's for me at the beginning of names. But they talk a lot about the Gastelum Till fight and it being more telling about Gastelum than it is Aaron Till, which I completely agree with. Schwan also mentions Gastelum's run to the title is kind of overrated when you look back on it. I mean, it's like guys like Tim Kennedy and Chris Wilder.
Oh, didn't he beat just like a bunch of old dudes?
A little bit. Like, he still had some he had the Jacare win. Or wait, did he lose to Jacare?
No, he knocked him the fuck out.
That's right. Yeah, so, like, while Kelvin definitely had some solid wins in there, there was also, like, he got fast-tracked a little bit at 185, which is easy to do at a weight class like that. Less so nowadays. That weight class is starting to fill out again, but it was interesting to hear him bring it up. They also talk a bit about something that I thought was interesting. They talk about the mysterious, unstoppable foreign fighter gimmick that the UFC broadcast specifically likes to give Russian fighters. And, like, once he mentioned that, and especially after listening to this weekend's card, man, they talk a lot about Russian fighters having cardio and wrestling that not all of them have. Like, they just assume dudes like Zabit are going to have hella cardio and hella wrestling. And while Zabit does have hella wrestling, not so much with the cardio.
I noticed that.
So it's interesting to hear them talk about that because it's definitely starting to feel like a narrative that's getting pushed, and it's not necessarily clear why. I also really enjoyed that Schwan pointed out how weird Jennifer Maia's performance was against Kaylin Chookagian. Specifically, he mentioned that there's rumors that either Maia doesn't listen to her corner or that her corner doesn't game plan, which while watching that fight, it seems pretty fucking obvious it's one of those two things. But it was just an interesting episode. Also, Schwan talks a lot about becoming friends with King Mo, and King Mo back in the day giving him a shout out for helping him game plan a win, and like King Mo specifically went on the Sherdog Radio Network and gave Schwan, who you guys would probably know as Black Jordan Breen, he gave him a shout out saying like, hey, Schwan was, he messaged Schwan afterwards, he's like, hey man, you got as much of this win as I did, kind of thing, which was very cool, and it was just cool hearing all that. So it's interesting background, and I think Schwan is one of the most underrated voices when it comes to breaking down strategy in fights. I think him and another guy out of, I believe, that same area, Stephen Warman Wright, I think, are two of the most unheralded voices when it comes to that stuff, especially in the podcast sphere.
Nice.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Have you listened to much of the MMA Ratings podcast?
Fuck, like
while back,
couple times, but yeah, it's been a while, man.
Well, I'll let you know when there's the next one that pops up, and we'll have you check it out, because that show I feel like is underrated, and especially for some of especially ones where Schwan's doing a lot of tape study, especially when it comes to female fighters, because he actually gets called in on some of those to help game plan, and it's really interesting to hear him. He'll drop like little tiny tidbits where you're like, oh, he talked to somebody and knows something that he's not saying out loud, but you can hear it. And I think it's a very underrated podcast, so I would absolutely recommend people give that a listen.
Oh yeah, man.
Cool, dude. Is there any MMA podcast you recommend people skip this week?
I didn't really have one. I mean, yeah, no.
To be honest, me neither. Full disclosure, I did not listen to Shab's podcast this week, but
I mean,
I would assume it's almost entirely about boxing. So maybe that's
and then that one certain boxing match that doesn't exist and is totally not an embarrassment to the sport of boxing.
Oh, yeah, is that the video where Riley Reid was in the audience shaking her ass? That's the only reference I have for that.
I don't know, but now I want to. Now I want to see that because that sounds fucking hilarious.
Yeah, that's the only notable GIF to come out of that entire event, as far as I'm concerned.
Now that sounds hilarious because it's like, hey, this is how useless this fight is. So
they were literally still in the ring while it was happening. You can see it.
Yes, I need to see it. It's like, hey, this fight is not a fight. So here's a porn star in the background doing her thing.
It's not in the background. She is the focus of the video. It's pretty
really
cool. Yeah, it's
Cam, that sounds comedy then.
It's Cam Soda Legends-esque. It's pretty good.
Okay.
But if you go on Twitter, literally everyone has been talking about it. So, as everyone was talking about that event, like it matters. So
I'm gonna look it up on Twitter now because that sounds hilarious.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. To be fair, there's like 4 other hookers in the or not hookers in the video. I just don't know who they are. So, to be fair, anyway, why don't we go ahead and jump into? Do you have an MMA podcast you recommend people can't miss this week?
Oh God damn it! Jesus. Sorry. Can't miss. Eurobash was good.
I was going to say, I didn't really have too many notes. This phone, by the way. Yes, Eurobash is actually my can't miss.
Yeah, I'll let you kind of have more notes 59. On it. I know they talked a lot of Irish local MMA scene. Unfortunately, I think I was driving and doing something mostly when I was listening to it, so I couldn't really be like, oh, hey, let me take notes and not crash. I know they had. What was the guy's name that they had on there?
So they had 2 different interviews in the episode. They had Graham Boylan, who's the head dude at Cage Warriors, on. And he talked
That's right, Cage Warriors.
Yeah, he talked a lot about the cork card that they put on in Ireland on Saturday, and how there's a couple interesting things about this episode. It was really good. First off, I should mention that PT and Niall seem like they're just walking around Dublin recording on the interstitials, which was pretty cool. They talk a little bit about recent news, but they do a weird music bed underneath it. I don't know what to make of that. They also, because it's an Irish podcast that's not named Severe MMA, talk about what's next for Connor. To be fair, Severe MMA sometimes will talk about it, but I don't know. I feel like Eurobash has a little bit more of that MMA fighting edge where they are more willing to name drop Conor McGregor 1,400 times because someone in the higher ups is asking them to. They do interview Graham Boylan, though, like we talked about the Cork, Ireland card that Cage Warriors put on at Cage Warriors 110, which was actually it's a fun card. Some of the matchmaking was intentional, I'll say. But what was interesting about it is they talk about Graham seemed to imply that he was not going out of his way to comply. I use the word imply, and now I'm going to use the word comply. But he's not going out of his way to comply with the whatever federation or governing body, for lack of a better word, handles the MMA scene in Ireland that's been charging more for cards. Is something that Sean Shannon and those guys have talked about for a bit. But I thought it was really interesting to kind of hear him, because the whole the whole governing body that handles that stuff also is involved with John Kavanagh, who has a competing promotion in Ireland, which is kind of a weird conflict of interest, and it's interesting that that's kind of a thing. Also, Graham Boylan and John Kavanagh have had words back and forth, especially during the last week with Ian Gary, who's been firing shots at Bellator's relationship with John Kavanagh. So it was interesting.
I was gonna mention, was this the episode where they mentioned Paddy Houlihan's relationship with John Kavanagh, and he's basically, dude, fuck you. You kind of you're there to support me initially, but then you're kind of all by yourself. And then someone else on Reddit, I kind of went down this rabbit hole.
It was another dude who's very involved with the gym. I forget his name, but he's a well-known.
So same thing kind of happened even with Connor too, right? Didn't even John kind of say like, "Oh well, Connor's out doing his own thing. I'm not going to support him." Like
the Connor thing is kind of different because.
Or is it more or less an example of that Connor's kind of taking such the limelight of the gym that no one else gets attention because it's all about him, and that's where everyone else's relationship gets strained?
It seems like it's hard to tell from the outside. It seems it could be a little bit of that. It could be what Paddy implies, which you guys will actually hear on the upcoming clip on the break. Because Paddy has a great interview. They talk a lot. Actually, one thing I do want to touch on before we get to this, Graham Boylan did mention why they used the vinyl canvas, which is, of course, point of contention after the fight that I can picture, dude, but I keep wanting to call him Brian Barberena, even though I know it's not him. He just fought recently. He fought in the UFC prior. He was a tough dude. Oh, man, what's his name? Fuck. You guys know what I'm talking about. It was the fight that was stopped due to too much blood in the cage. The guy that fought recently. I'm a big fan of the dude, too. I just can't remember his name right now. It'll come to me eventually. But anyway.
Is that in KSW?
No. It was in Cage Warriors.
So that was Cage Warriors. Oh, that was Cage Warriors. That's Cage Warriors. Yeah. That was gross. Fuck. I remember that. I don't know who it is, though.
Oh, God. I can fucking picture him. I keep wanting to call him Nile, but I know it's wrong.
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
Me neither, off the top of my head. Anyway, it'll come to me. But they did bring that up, so I thought that was an interesting point to know. But the Paddy Houlihan thing was interesting. He talks a lot about getting involved with politics, which is always cool, and whether he's considered running for president, which I thought was neat as well. But Paddy, goes out of his way to talk about how John Kavanagh, for lack of a better word, just kind of started having weird ego things going on, and then was like saying, well, yes, Paddy, if you want to have an SBG gym, you can have an SBG gym, but also we need you to pay this $5,000 fee to use the name SBG.
Was he just trying to like say I trademarked the name or some shit? Well, give me like a deductible or some sort of deposit.
Yeah, and I would recommend people listen to the actual interview because I don't want to paraphrase it poorly.
Yeah. Nor do I.
And he's very good at like selecting his words and saying it in a way that like I'm gonna make it sound worse than it is. So I don't want to do that. But Paddy, it's clear that as someone from the outside who's just seen John Kavanagh's Twitter for the last couple of years, like I feel like there's a lot between the lines that Paddy is being nice and not saying, and that a lot of even dudes who are having problems with John Kavanagh and SBG right now are not saying. But it's interesting to keep an eye on, and I thought it was cool to hear Paddy kind of talk openly about it. And I just thought it was an interesting episode overall. It's one of those scenes that outside of Severe MMA and Eurobash, we don't really see a lot of like local Irish MMA coverage. And not part of that is because of all the regulation stuff they've been going through, but part of it also is just because after Conor McGregor, we'll say, came up on every single charge, that whole area is kind of not talked about outside of those shows. So a big respect to Eurobash and to especially Severa May, who's been doing Sean. I know Sean Sheehan's been on the ground doing interviews all fucking week for the Cage Warriors card, and there's a lot of very cool, very interesting information coming out of that area, and something to keep an eye on for sure, because I have a feeling it'll change not only the people coming out of that area, as shown on that Cage Warriors card, like there's some real fucking talent being bred over there, but also there's a lot of politics that should be kept an eye on, because it could get really, really interesting in a good way or really interesting in a bad way, and it's just something to keep an eye on. Cool, man. Let's see, dude. So now that we got through the can't miss, did you have any new shows that you listened to this week?
Fortunately not, man. It was kind of a rushed week for me.
To be fair, there was not a ton of MMA podcast, especially with the Moscow card. Like, the content that was there was mostly just 244 recaps, and then, oh yeah, Greg Hardy is fighting.
I was gonna say, I saw a lot of shit on Greg Hardy. I'm like, dude, I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember I had that fight on at work. We have a projector in our barrel room, and I was like, hey, everyone. I'm like, you know who that is, right? Like, oh yeah, isn't that guy's NFL? I'm like, yeah. Root for the Russian guy. And like this one guy is like, why? I'm like, don't you remember? He's like, oh, I remember. Go Volkov. I'm like, thank you. But yeah.
Yeah, easiest person to root for in a fight of all time.
Yep.
Man, this beer is good. I wish it had something else to it though.
Which one are you having again?
So it's that Mai Tai sour.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's really good. It feels like it's missing something. Like, I feel like if I throw a dash of lime in this thing, it would brighten it the fuck up.
It's missing Caribbean rum.
Dude, yeah, maybe, you know what? Maybe in the second segment, I'll add a dash of rum and some lime to this thing. I think it'll brighten it right the fuck up. Let's see. So I did listen to a new show, which this is technically a new show, but I feel like I've heard this before. It's called Coffee Talk for UFC 244. It's a post-fight show that they did on Monday with Danny Segura, Jose Youngs, Casey Ledden, and Esther Lynn, where they basically just sat around and drank coffee and talked about the 244 card.
So, is it like your favorite coffee show, Java Boys?
Dude. Oh my god.
I had to do it.
I know. It was, to be fair, it's the very first thing I thought of when I saw that name. I was like, wait, was that the name of their... Oh no, they chose the worst name of all time. I forgot. Because their show should have been called Coffee Talk, but instead they went with fucking Java Boys, which I feel like the name of that show directly relates to the amount of coverage you're going to see on KSI versus Logan Paul tomorrow on Brennan Schaub's show. I feel like there's a direct correlation between those two things.
No.
Just saying.
God.
And Luke Thomas, actually, who not only mentioned it on his live chat on Friday in the title, but I believe will have a lot. Actually, he already said he's going to be talking about it tomorrow on Morning Combat. So there's an early skip. But yeah, anyway, Coffee Talk.
Skill.
Yeah. Anyway, Coffee Talk, UFC 244. Not about that. They talk a lot about the cut and Nate having an injury going in. Jose Young said that he...
Oh, that reminds me of something.
Go ahead.
No, well, what was it? Oh, MMA Junkie. Sorry. I was walking the dog when I was listening to this. They said for his gangsta, and I agree with this 100%. I'm sorry, and yes, every fighter does this. For his gangster, as the Diaz brothers say they are, they sure complain a lot and make excuses with injuries. But then again, it's like a lot of fighters talk about the injuries they've had because everyone knows this. No one is ever 100% healthy. So it's like when Nate said he fucked up his knee, I'm not surprised. Like, do I care that he...
But...
Like, do I care that he makes it a big deal? Not really, because I don't really expect anyone to be 100% healthy.
Well, see, that's kind of the difference for me. Is I don't feel like Nate makes it a big deal. I feel like the Diaz brothers are honest to a fault, where they feel bad if they don't say the truth out loud. Like, it's
it's good to be transparent. I just remember Masvidal kind of took it the wrong way.
Oh, for
sure. They asked him about... Well, we know how Masvidal was. They asked him, like, yeah, he's like, well, I don't really respect that because he's talking about how I remember Jorge was like, yeah, this guy's talking about he wants to fight to the death, and then he whines about his knee. He's like, you don't understand. I had the injuries I had too, but you don't see me bitching about that. Right. I get it. It's all perspective. It's these guys fighting, not me. I'm just an outsider looking in. I'm observing the fight, and I get that, and I'm not oblivious to the fact. Of course, everyone has injuries going in, it depends how you want, whether you're fans or people watching it to view how you just carry yourself, win or loss, right? To me it doesn't matter because I know everyone's always hurt. You're not going to have injuries, and to me, Nate's comments don't bother me because I believe him that he was hurt. I understand where Jorge was coming from, being disrespected from his point of view. I get it, right. But
and
so,
yeah,
I totally get it.
I think the main thing for me with Nate is I feel like Nate would have said that win or loss. Like I feel like his performance regardless wouldn't have mattered. I feel like it's one of those things where he would have said it because he felt like he needed to say it. And it has nothing to do with what he looked like. He could have looked amazing. He could have looked like garbage. I think he would have said it either way. I don't think it would have mattered. Yeah. I think he would have just needed people. Like, I feel like that is the classic Diaz brothers trope. Just like in the USADA situation where they are so honest to a fault that it hurts them every single time. But also it's impossible not to like them for it. Like, they will say things that they don't even necessarily... they haven't thought it out, and they don't necessarily have a point behind it, but they just felt the need to say something that they honestly felt. So
yeah, exactly.
I don't know. Also, maybe it's just because I have a little bit of that trait, and so of course I find it endearing. But I did really enjoy though in the Coffee Talk UFC 244 episode that Jose Youngs, thank you. So
Jose Lungs, dude.
I'll explain in a bit why I had a panic attack because Danny Segura was on the episode and Jose Youngs was on the episode. But Jose Youngs talked about how he laughed wildly at the stoppage, which is the exact same thing I did. Because I was like, fucking, first off, we all owe Judo Bill big shouts last week. If you guys dropped in for the podcast recording I did solo, Judo Bill came in and he's like, has anybody considered the cut / damage situation to Diaz being a factor? Like, could a cut be a problem? And he specifically shouted that out, which was very on the money, and I did not think of going in.
Oh, and shouts out to Trevor. At the end of the first round, he was like, yeah, they're going to stop that fight.
Dude, they should have, after the first.
He was just saying, all Trevor was saying is like, they are going to stop this fight. Like, I almost guarantee him, like, and like, what do you think? I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, because that's a really bad cut.
Oh,
I'm like, do I think it should have been stopped? Not necessarily. Do I disagree with the stoppage? I mean, I want to see them fight more because I want to see the last 2 rounds, but I definitely think it was a bad cut. I get why they stopped it. I really do.
Yeah.
It was bad. But
good place,
we're all selfish in watching the fights. We want to see it go on, and we want to see what the fit for it. It's fine.
Yeah,
it is what it is. It's part of the fight game. But does that guy deserve death threats? No, that's ridiculous. The guy's just doing his fucking job. But whatever. People like to react emotionally.
That's right.
That's why over emotionally.
That's why we are officially coming out 2020 in support of the Plague Doctor movement.
Yes.
And I'm very excited about it.
Well, let's just do like the very first time we're just wearing those masks. And like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, well, we said we would do it.
100%. Fucking next card in London, we're rocking Plague Doctor masks for the whole breakdown. It's gonna be like a goddamn Bloodborne episode up in this bitch. Anyway. So...
Yeah, you'd just be like, hello!
Hello! Yes, Miss Doubtfire, the Plague Doctor.
Yes. It makes it all the better.
Let's see. Did you have any other MMA podcasts you wanted to give a shout out to?
Oh, MMA Takes was solid. MMA Takes is if you're a betting person and you just want to listen to fight previews, he just previewed the Moscow card and just said, here's the lines, here's who you should parlay and kind of pony up with, and here's the straight up picks. He's a pick guy.
Yeah, and that's a regular on MMA Podcast.
Yes,
right?
And I remember he even was like, hey, Fuck that Greek guy that doesn't have lips and just all teeth. But then again, he did really well this week or last week. What's that guy's name? The one that Dana's always playing, that Greek guy.
I have no idea who you're talking
It's
about.
like Yanni the Greek.
Oh,
it's like Yanni the
Yanni.
Greek.
Oh, you mean the auto fade? The person that is the worst picker of all time?
Yeah, I know.
Pretty
He
sure
has
Greg Hardy
literally
going
no
in this
lips.
weekend, by
He's
the way.
literally like this. Look, he's like, "Hi guys, here's how you should have this week," and it's just like all teeth. He's like Tony Robbins, right, with his teeth. But the guy in MMA, he's like, you know what? I gotta give it to them. He's like, he's wrong most of the time, but he fucking killed it on 244. So good for him.
By the
That's
way,
all he's done. That's what.
Smoogie, I believe, on Smoogie MMA on Twitter, I believe, was the person who pointed out, is it at all a conflict of interest, the fact that Yanni the Greek intentionally picks the wrong person all the time and has relationships with places that receive bets? Meaning, does he get a vig of the losses incurred by his terrible picks?
I mean,
which is
there's got to be
interesting.
There's got to be some sort of.
There's all kinds of conflicts of interest. Number one, you're working with a promotion and you're a gambler. Number two, you openly gamble and work with the promotion. Number three, you also have connections with multiple casinos.
Yeah, because
who are
notice
owned by
how
people
Dana
who
never
own the
goes,
thing.
hey, it's this Greek fucker with BetDSI, or it's this Greek fucker with this thing. It's just this Greek fucker, and that's it.
Yeah,
And
it's interesting. It's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Because he is, especially on Contender Series, he went like, it's not been going well. People fade Yanni the Greek pretty consistently, and it's worked out very well for dudes. I know Dan Thomas shouted it out a bunch.
Yeah, Yanni the Greek needs to go back to season 2 of The Wire and fuck right off. Just kidding. I have no problem with it, but I think it's kind of funny. Yeah, shit.
Fucking goddamn it, I love The Wire. After reading that David Simon book, I'm like 100% ready to start The Wire over again and just lose 800 hours of my life again. Oh my god. So
By the way, I don't know if you've been on HBO recently, but there's been some fantastic shows and very confusing shows. It's great.
Oh, yeah?
Shouts out to anything Danny McBride and Jody Hill. The Righteous Gemstones is fantastic. If you're a fan of Eastbound and Down or Vice Principals,
How could you not be?
you have to. It's absolutely. I think it's better. It's so good, especially if you don't like mega churches, and you don't have to necessarily dislike religion. But say you do, or you happen to, then you'll like him more. And it's great. And then as far as entertaining but very confusing shows, unless apparently if you read the graphic novel, the new Watchmen show on HBO is very entertaining but very what the fuck. So highly recommend.
Well, I'm going to add that to your well-rounded suggestions.
I very, very recommend that you're inebriated while watching The Watchmen, because you'll need to be. So
Wait, why? Because it's more fun or because it's not good?
no, it's good. It's just like it's like I'm entertained right now, but what's going on? That kind of thing, or why did that just happen?
Gotcha.
So it's like this is awesome, but then wait, I need to look up because I never read The Watchmen, so I didn't know. I saw the movie, the Zack Snyder movie, and even then I was like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
It's just one of those things like this is cool, but it's like what but no, it's a cool show, but yeah, you kind of need some background info, and you kind of it's very, very anti-white power and anti-KK, which I'm down with. So
Yeah.
it's cool.
No, that sounds like my kind of show for sure.
Yeah, a lot of white trash hillbillies dying, so I'm down.
Sign me the fuck up. That literally sounds like a show made for me. All right, I'll run through these honorable mentions here real briefly. I liked pretty much every single one of these shows. A lot of them could have been catches for me. They just barely, I guess, they were just edged out by if I did it in MMA ratings. But these were all fantastic. Between the Links, episode 25 with Danny Segura. It's Mike Heck, Keith Schillen, Craig Allen, Davidson Baker, and Danny Segura. It's really fun. Davidson Baker even talks about working at B-Dubs after 244 and then finding out he has to serve BMF wings, which I really enjoyed. Gross Point Blank at Home with Randy Couture was really good. Josh Gross has a sit-down interview with Randy Couture at his house shortly after his heart attack 2 weeks ago or whatever.
That guy's such a badass.
Dude, it's insane. Randy wanted to commentate
he like
the
almost
PFL
60
card.
years
Like,
old?
yeah, I think he's like in his 40s or 50s. No, he's in his maybe he actually is. I think he's late 50s.
No, if I were to guess, I'd say he's like 56, 57, not even kidding.
Yeah, I think he's like late 50s, but Yeah, Randy sat down with Josh and talked about how he was bummed out he couldn't commentate the PFL card on Halloween. So like, dude, just get some rest. It's been a week. Get some rest. So I thought that was a lot of fun. Protect Your Neck, episode 156.
Oh, I did listen to that. That's
dude,
right.
Let me just say, Dan Tom has some... First off, I want to just appreciate Dan Tom suggesting that he should be called Dan Tom Method Analyst, because he goes out of his... He's like, oh yeah, you know what? I should start getting hit more, just so I understand what getting hit more feels like. Dan Tom Method Analyst. Even though he's like, I've probably done that too much already. But he had some great references on this one. I'm just going to say, my love for Dan Tom's show is like ticking clock. That's all I'm going to say. It's a good reference if you guys do your math. But Protect Your Neck 156 is very solid. He also talks a bit about how he live tweeted From Dusk Till Dawn recently. He says he wants to live tweet the movie Cobra on Thanksgiving Eve, which I'm very excited for. Cobra, by the way, if you guys have not seen Cobra, one of the all-time great Sylvester Stallone movies. Never have I seen a man cut pizza with scissors before, but I am fucking here for it every time. And yeah, he talks about always getting his shit pushed in on popular fight picks, which is why he did terrible on UFC 244. And he talks about how Koreans are definitely the toughest of the Asians. So it's fucking some classic Dan Tom shit. But,
I mean, I can't comment on that, so I'll let him, as I know he's like half Chinese, so I'll let him do his thing. So.
Yeah. Co-main event podcast episode 377 was really good. They talk about their BMF wings experience and how, by the way, spoiler alert, the BMF wings they found out are just Buffalo Wild Wings just took their 3 hottest flavors and combined them. So if you want BMF,
that sounds like a weekend in the bathroom.
Also, if you want BMF wings, you can probably still get them. You just have to ask him to do that. But it was a good episode. Talking about Nate living the gimmick, and Darren Till's very like open and honest post-fight comments.
Yeah, how he says, I'm a fake injury because I'm scared to fight right now, which, I mean, I appreciate the honesty.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it, because I feel like and fuck Diego Sanchez, he's out of his mind. I don't care what he has to say on that matter, but I would say, I'd probably say 80% of fighters all experience, oh shit, I'm really doing this right now. Fuck.
Well, especially
just look at Jose Aldo when he's warming up. Look at fucking Tyron Woodley. They're literally like breathing super heavily and like, oh shit.
Well, I would argue the smarter fighters and the more intelligent fighters are the ones who have more of that conflict. Guys like GSP, guys like Kevin Lee.
GSP was always breathing hard. Same with fucking Kevin Lee.
Well, like, they're just more introspective, so they are aware of the consequences to a detriment, and they still have to overcome that. Which I find more like Rose Namajunas, another great example. Like, her as well. People who deal with that severe anxiety and are very open about it, and I love that shit, because I would argue it makes you much stronger to have that anxiety, be aware of it, and then talk about it openly than it does.
Because you can deal with it mid-fight. Notice how all those people are so fucking calm during the fight. Because that's what, there's like no anxiety mid-fight. They're not going to be tentative. They're just like calm, collected, because they're already dealing with it. Like, if you recognize what that is, you're probably going to deal with it better than people who don't recognize it, because then it just hits you like a fucking wall. You know,
and the other thing also, though, is that those people are the more introspective and kind of like they're very methodical, and they spend a lot of time on the mental side of the game, which I think is an interesting advantage for sure. Anyway, Severe MMA episode 234, really, really good episode. Talk about, they basically recap 234, talk a lot about the Cage Warriors Ireland card and how Ian Gary is making waves with all the shit he's talking about SBG's relationship with Bellator, which I thought was really interesting. And Sean Sheehan of Severe MMA Podcast is the one that tipped me off to the Eurobash episode, which I was planning on listening to anyway, but after he shouted out exactly what they talked about, I was like, oh shit, that is a must listen. So big shouts as always to Severe MMA. They're fucking amazing. Man in the Myth, the podcast from The Athletic with Sean Al-Shadi and Chuck Mendenhall, which, by the way, is now on regular podcast feeds, as is Josh Gross's podcast, Gross Point Blank. I know Josh Gross's podcast is cut down. It's not the full podcast, it's like an edited down version of it, and you get the full podcast through The Athletic. I know Fernanda's podcast, actually is the full version as of right now anyway, and I'm not sure about the Man of the Myth. I didn't check that beforehand, but it's something I'm going to keep an eye on. However, they did talk about Josh Gross's 32-man BMF tournament article, which was pretty cool. And then, Chris, you want to hear something cool? So you know how Chris, the producer, left UFC Unfiltered?
See, I haven't listened to that shit in a long time, so I had no idea.
You remember he's been gone for like a while, probably like 6 months to a year.
No, see, I'm telling you right now.
New producers and stuff though.
I'm telling you right now. I probably haven't listened to that show in like 3 or 4 months.
Really? Wow. So I listened to it off and on. But Chris, the producer's been gone for like 6 months to a year, maybe.
Okay.
Because they've been rotating producers. Turns out, I found out where Chris, the producer, is. He's the producer for all the Athletics MMA content.
Okay, good for him, man.
Yeah.
I like the Athletic.
So,
I haven't. Well, never mind.
I listened to the first episode of this week's shows, and I was like, fuck, man. Their producer, Chris, sounds a lot like Chris, the producer. And then actually on the second episode this week, the BMF Fantasy Tournament episode, they actually bring him on, and he's like, he straight up says, like, oh, yeah, in a past life, I was Chris, producer on UFC Unfiltered. I was like, oh, shit, I called it. So, evidently, I know my producers in MMA podcasting, which I felt pretty good
No,
about.
that guy's legit.
Yeah,
I like him a lot.
Great.
So
he actually tells some great stories on that episode about hanging out with.
Because Athletics like what, $5 a month, something like that.
Something like that. It's very affordable. I know they're always running sales and stuff too. I have a year-long subscription because I was a $10 patron of the Co-Main Event podcast.
Oh, nice.
So I have that.
Yeah, because I know that's where Ben and Chad write at.
Yeah,
is the Athletic.
Ben, Chad, Chuck Mendenhall, Sean Al-Shadi, Fernando Praches. I would not be surprised to maybe see Danny Segura show up soon. Danny Segura just recently announced he's leaving MMA fighting. And I'll be very surprised to see anyone but... that's not true. I don't want to phrase it like that. So I think anybody's lucky to get Danny Segura at this point. But I think Danny Segura would be a great fit for the Athletic, and I hope that's where he ends up. That or somewhere like Body Lock, who's been doing some great content, something like that. So... I'm excited to see where Danny turns out, but yeah, I thought that was an interesting thing because I didn't know. It sounded like Chris, the producer, on some of the but he talking like half a sentence on Fernando's podcast or like half a sentence on Man in the Myth or like a couple words to Josh Gross, so I couldn't tell. But yeah, confirmed that Chris, the producer. Chris the producer, as Matt Sarah would say.
Chris the producer,
or the original Chris producer, which Ray Longo would deny, is officially on the Athletic MMA podcast. So that is something to keep an eye on. Heavy Hands bonus episode 46 is really good. That's their Patreon episode, talking about Corey Beasing on Johnny Walker and how the pluses and minuses of Mark Henry's coaching in fights like the Corey Anderson fight and the Chooks fight. Also, they talk about how the fuck is Edmund Shabazian so good, which I really enjoyed.
I actually had speeches about that. I think that's just a matter of where he's another Ronda in that. Well, I mean, he can actually strike.
He's so well rounded though.
Yeah, that's my point.
I don't understand where his game came from. Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where it's like, I think he's so good. He's like, and this is a terrible comparison. Okay, he's one of those athletes where his talent, almost negates the head coach. In that, say, how would I describe this? Well, I'm getting at. I'm trying to think of a professional athlete that won multiple titles with multiple coaches. See my point? It's almost like he's so talented he can get away with it, and without guidance. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
He just has that. I think that's what it is. I think this kid is so fucking good. It almost really doesn't matter who's coaching him. And don't get me wrong. I know Edmund. I'm sure. Besides the whole Ronda situation, has the guy's a gym, so he knows something.
To be fair, he's put out some really good boxers.
And yes, and that's the thing. The guy's not really a bad coach as far as the striking, the hands-on. As far as the stand-up, I think he's a decent coach, and so far Edmund looks like a great kickboxer. He has decent scrambling too. Do I think he's a legitimate threat at middleweight? Absolutely. At this point, I can't deny that. This kid just finished Brad Tavares.
Middleweight, right?
Yeah, he finished Brad Tavares in like a minute. That's impressive. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Faster than what Izzy did, and I'm not comparing him to Adesanya.
It's wild, yeah.
I'm always saying this because the kid's like 21, which is fucking stupid. So, is he a title contender? Fuck yeah, at some point he is. This kid's 21. There's no way this kid's not going to be fighting for the title. I said it 100%.
As long as he keeps looking the way he does, it's hard. Yeah. It's going to be hard to know for sure.
I think he should fight Derek Brunson next, though. Someone who's really scrappy.
Man, you just really want to murder Derek Brunson, don't you, bro?
I don't, but I also like Derek Brunson because look what he did to Ian Heinisch, too. He beat him.
Yeah. So
I remember he was hyped up.
Edmund Shabazian out. Jesus. Way to give Derek Brunson
I don't know. Ian Heinisch was trying to look like Edmund Shabazian, though. Right? And Ian Heinisch was hyped up.
Yeah.
Look what Derek Brunson did to that. I feel like it's a good challenge.
Yeah. No,
Derek Brunson
right around that. Like, yeah, I would want to see something around that range, to be fair.
That's the only reason why I'm saying that.
Yeah, or like a Manawa or somebody like that.
Well, Manawa's retired.
I know, but like the Manawa, like somewhere in that, like if Manawa wasn't retired, like that.
So someone chinny.
Wow. You said it. You're the one that tried to feed him to Brunson, bro. Or feed
One
Brunson
punch, bro. All over Lion. Sacktown represent.
All right. Well, Sacktown represent indeed. Speaking of Sacktown, another podcast. Check out Eugene S. Robinson Showstomper V88, which he recorded today. I would recommend the first 2/3 of this podcast. Actually, in honor of Eugene S. Robinson Showstomper, I'll shout out Whiskey Dragonfly in the chat mentions Masvidal would seriously damage Conor's pay-per-view drawing potential if he beats the dog shit out of him. UFC invested too much money into Conor's star power to let Masvidal beat Conor to death.
Yeah, they're never making that fight. I'm saying it right now. And not never, but that fight's not going to happen at all.
In Eugene S. Robinson style, I would just like to say, I would argue rape allegations hurt Conor's pay-per-view drawing potential way more than anything Masvidal would do.
I mean, yes, but my point is also, like, the UFC said, oh, wait, well, look what Jorge did to Nate, and look how Nate did against Conor. Could we really just, like, hype this fight up just to see Jorge kick the ever-loving shit out of Conor? Probably not.
I mean, to be fair, they have to... Never mind. I'm going to go ahead and move on and be a classy gentleman who doesn't rape ladies against their will.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, thank you. I did say allegedly the first time, but yes, allegedly again. Yeah, Eugene, I just like the episode because he talks about how a lot of people feel after this Moscow card, just kind of feeling like a degenerate and that no one learned anything from any of the fights, really. It is tough. But I liked how he talked a lot about the only reason Hardy is in the UFC is because he beat up his partner, and he talks pretty honestly about that stuff. He also talks about how DC is for some reason pushing the UFC narrative that Conor McGregor is still a person who can fight and not under all kinds of rape allegations and nowhere near fighting again.
Wait, Cormier's pushing on there?
Well, Cormier's been saying, like, oh, well, who knows what's next for Conor, da-da-da. And
I think he's just being a company man.
Right, but Eugene knows Cormier, like, because Eugene came up since the 80s. He's been friends with Javier Mendez, rather, and he's been buddies with him forever, and he's been around the AKA camp forever. So it's interesting to see him come out and be like, what the fuck is DC pushing that narrative for? So I thought that was interesting. I'll run through the rest of these very, very quickly. Weekly Scraps episode 48 was good. Aljo had his friend Will in studio, who is a former wrestler and friend of his from back in the day. So they recapped the 244 card. It was pretty fun. Weekly Scraps episode 49 is another regular one where Aljo runs it solo. He talks about training with Zabit back in the day, and he compares him to Eddie Gordo from Tekken, which I appreciated the shit out of.
I like that.
Yeah, it was very good. He also talks about the time that he got nearly KO'd by Zabit in sparring, which was wild. Slip and Dip episode 120 was really good. They talk about Matt Brown. They talk with Matt Brown, about his return, and they also talk to James Lynch about the UFC 244 card last week. MMA on the Rocks, which I shouted out earlier, episode 165 was very solid. Jeff is all out of sorts. He doesn't even know what day or time it is because of daylight savings. He was still off by like a couple hours. It was great. And it's just a fun recap of UFC 244. Talk about some of the crazy scoring and whether the stoppage was was legit. They also questioned whether the doctor is actually the baddest motherfucker on the planet. Which, to be a doctor to stop that fight in Madison Square Garden between those dudes in the main event, it's a pretty bad motherfucker move. So, hard to argue against, to be fair.
Yeah, I can't argue that.
Yeah. Also, Believe You Me, episode 174. Harrington filled in for Luis J. Gomez. That was a pretty solid one.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, there's also a pre-taped interview with Jorge and Bisbee and Lewis, which is alright, which is pretty solid. Jorge did say he wants to run it back with Nate next in that interview, so it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. And then Beatdown After the Bell, UFC 244, TJ and Rob Tatum talk about the card and the cut and how terrible New York State Athletic Commission is. They also talk a lot about the $850 replica BMF belt that the UFC put out, which is fucking hilarious. So, cool, man. You mentioned The Watchmen HBO. Is there any other well-rounded podcasts you wanted to shout out that are not about MMA? Or videos or TV shows or anything?
100%. Regardless, even if you like Star Wars to some little extent, or if you like the show Narcos, I know you've seen that show, right, Chris?
You're talking about me. I don't care about Star Wars, and I like Narcos.
Okay, you remember the character Pena, Agent Pena,
Vaguely.
Pedro Pascal. He's the main character of the show. Technically, he's like he's the main character of the second and third season. He is playing the Mandalorian, which is like a Boba Fett character in the new Star Wars show. I'm just plugging that because apparently it's the most expensive show of all time. And it looks pretty cool. It looks entertaining to me. That's coming out on the 12th. That's my only plug. Disney Plus. The only reason why I'm plugging it, if you get Disney Plus, you can watch every episode of The Simpsons. Marvel, everything National Geographic, Disney, right?
That shit's cool and all, but I heard they're going to be adding the old school Disney Channel movies on there, like fucking Brink, and that's the real shit I'm about.
They are. No, listen, see, I was getting to this. I'm glad you cut me off.
So, Brink and Halloween
listen to this. Listen to this. I'm about to blow your mind, too. So, I was always a Nickelodeon and a Cartoon Network and Toonami kid, right?
Of course.
Guess what else they're adding? Gargoyles, which is amazing.
I fucks with Gargoyles.
I fucks with Gargoyles. Also, they're adding all the Fox animated shows, X-Men, the animated series, Spider-Man, and all that shit from Fox Kids is going to be on there. Yeah, I fucks with that, especially Gargoyles, dude. Like, that's fucking legit.
No, for sure. I would wake up in the morning when I was like 6 years old. My brother would be out there watching Gargoyles all the fucking time, so I feel that.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, no, and it's $6 a month. And the other plug is, unless you can also, like, I guess you could combo it with ESPN Plus and Hulu and something else for like $12. I have to look into that because I know a lot of people talk shit. They're like, oh, you can combo. It's like, oh, where?
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see if that actually comes out the way it says it's going to. But if that is the combo, I mean, I'm already paying for 2 of those anyway, so it'll be actually cheaper for me. But hey, man, if I can watch Brink anytime I want, and I can rock Team
I just want to watch.
I'm in.
And that Team X-Blade, your boy Val.
Bro, you already know. I'm gonna make some motherfuckers some worm sandwiches up in this bitch.
Dude, I just want to watch my Lizzie McGuire, bro. Disney Channel's all about.
Hey, to be fair, the Even Stevens movie in Hawaii was pretty good, dude.
Oh, wait, and Johnny Tsunami's on there. All those goofy ass Disney shows.
Go big or go home, dog.
Yeah. So yeah, Disney Plus is a thing, y'all. Go check it out.
I'm hoping
for Gargoyles.
All that shit because I will watch.
Oh no, there's already an article out there like on Forbes. It's like everything confirmed for Disney Plus. It's great.
Man,
yeah, it's great.
I will watch the shit out of Alley Cat Strike. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh no, that's on there. You just said. I swear to God, I saw that. Anything
that's amazing.
Yeah,
the best bowling movie ever. Eat your heart out, fucking Kingpin. It's a bad movie.
I swear that's on there.
The Woody Harrelson Kingpin movie? It's Kingpin, right?
Yeah, Kingpin. Yeah, it was the Farrelly brothers, the ones who did Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah. By the way, the Farrelly brothers aren't good at movies, I would argue.
Oh no, the only good movie they did was that, and technically it's still not. It's not a bad movie. It's not as good as it won Best Picture last year. Was Green Book. Haven't seen it.
Oh, I haven't seen it either.
But yeah, that was one of the Farrelly brothers. Yeah, he directed that.
I guess I just don't do the I don't know, goofy humor. Anyway, I'll quickly shout out some of the podcasts I wanted to give a big mention to that are non-MMA related. So Punch Drunk Sports, episode 368. I don't even know how to begin to describe this episode. I'm just going to say Jason Tebow lost a bet, and he had to take a shot of his own piss. And he did that on air. Just watch the video version.
So was it like he cheated and he drank only water? So he's drinking basic water,
he drank his own piss.
But no. But you know my point though. Like
they filmed him peeing into the shot glass.
No, I know, but like, was it like regular piss or clear piss? Like he drank water and cheated?
No, it was piss enough, and then he doubles down and drinks one of the other co-hosts' piss because he says it's not that bad.
I'm out.
Then he triples down and drinks a second co-host's piss. Then he quadruples down and drinks Red Band's piss.
So that means he tasted his own. He's like, this is good. I'm down. That's all that means. That's all that means. That's all that means.
It's incredible. I highly recommend that. On a very different tone.
I'm good on that.
The Cigar Authority episode 500 is very good. It's a bunch of old white dudes in the Northeast smoking cigars. They got 500 episodes.
Oh, so Bill Burr and his buddy Jason Bursey, or whatever.
Actually, even better than
John
Bill Burr.
Bursey.
Friend of Bill Burr. Oh my God, why can I not think of dude's name right now? Fucking. Oh my God, not Joe Varzi. You fucked me up by saying Joe Varzi. I can't think of the other dude's name now. It's the guy who always smokes all the cigars. That's a big
and he's also friends with Jim Norton.
Yes,
I know you're talking about.
Yes, that dude. Oh my God, I can't fucking
God
think
damn
of
it.
his name.
God damn it.
Anyway,
It's like
he's been on Cigar Authority before, but Cigar Authority.
Oh, Bobby Kelly.
Fucking Bobby Kelly, dude.
Yeah, Bobby Kelly.
So the Cigar Authority celebrated their 500th episode. They're now the longest continually running cigar podcast. And they're fucking fantastic. I actually smoked the Perdomo Epicure Maduro that they sent out with the Cigar Authority care package this week, and it was fucking incredible. It's maybe the best $8 cigar I've ever had in my life. It's at least up there.
I don't want to cut you off. I'm literally about to fall asleep, so I gotta get some coffee.
I was gonna say I have two more things, which are gonna take 2 seconds, and then we're gonna get to our break. Doug Stanhope podcast, episode 339. Doug Stanhope, I believe the title is Doug Stanhope Ghosts the Haunted House at his house. Or no, Doug Stanhope Ghosts the Fun House or something like that. Anyway, it's an episode with Brian Hennigan, Doug Stanhope, Chad Shank, all your favorites. It's really good. It's used with Andy, episode 12, Live at the Fun House is great as well. That's the podcast with Andy Andrist, Chaley, Chad Shank, and Brett Erickson, and it's fucking incredible. Fucking Andy Andrus tells all kinds of crazy stories that'll get him arrested again. And Legion of Skanks episode 439 with Tony Hinchcliffe and Joe Rogan the Friday before UFC 244 was pretty solid. So those are the main ones I had. We will be back here in just a second, and we will very briefly recap this UFC card in Moscow, and maybe we'll talk a little bit of Bellator. So we'll be right back. In the meantime, you guys can listen to this clip of... Oh, God, what was the clip of? Oh, Patty Pemblett. Nope. The other Patty. The Houlihan variety. Talking about John Kavanaugh. So check it out.
Liked by the sound of violence.
The problem with me and John was that for many, many years, I had worked for the man. I had jumped through hoops for the man. Many more hoops than he jumped through for me. He taught me the way. But a coach and a fighter, right, is a two-way process. At the start, it's a one-way process, one-way street. You're learning from the coach, and the coach gives you the attention and time, and then it becomes a two-way street. And that's when it kind of went a little bit wrong there. So when it turns to a two-way street, people are going to start taking their view on it, or maybe they start to look at themselves, or ego kicks in, and that's what happens.
Are you excited about it all? by the sound of violence.
The problem with me and John was that for many, many years, I had worked for the man. I had jumped through hoops for the man. Many more hoops than he jumped through for me. He taught me the way. But a coach and a fighter, right, is a two-way process. At the start, it's a one-way process. It's a one-way street. You're learning from the coach. And the coach gives you the attention and time. And then it becomes a two-way street. And that's when it kind of went a little bit wrong there. So when it turns to a two-way street, people are going to start taking their view on it, or maybe they start having to start to look at themselves, or ego kicks in. And that's what happens.
Different generation, are you excited about it all? Liked by the sound of violence.
UTech, you're the UFC. What PR moves can you make to protect the doctor who stopped the UFC 244 BMF main event match last Saturday night?
You know what? That doctors in general, because I think we could have some total fun with this, Because you remember, I can't say you remember because I'm not saying you guys are that old or that I'm that old either, but we go back to during the bubonic plague times.
Oh, I remember those days.
I remember that.
Oh.
The bird mask,
Yes.
the long thing.
Where is it? I have one around here somewhere.
And last time I saw one of those masks, it was like at a sex party. It was really eerie. I don't know why the guy had it on. Yeah, it wasn't like that.
Oh, it
He had
wasn't
a
like
long,
That was mine. That
long
was my
beak.
bird mask.
You put that on your head? I don't know what's going on with that bird there.
It's part of my
Ah,
daughter's
looks like-
Halloween
Oh,
costume.
I was playing a pirate.
Arrgh.
But you know, you can have them wear a plague mask when they go into the ring in order to check people out so they don't get threatened. And it would add a lot of drama. They should wear the coats and everything.
Oh.
Ring girls, that's
Identity concealing.
yes.
Right.
It would be creepy.
They
and
should do
fun.
that. That's perfect.
Yeah, I would totally be about it. Like, get rid of the ring girls, bring in the plague doctor. Who's there with them?
We back, everybody?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Chris went into the Matrix just as we started. Perfect. Just as I intended.
Oh. That's weird. And I don't think I have compared to when you go into Matrix. So this is an honor. This is fun.
Yeah, it's evidently all of the people at your place use the internet after 10:30 at night, and all the people at my place use it before then.
Yeah, shouts out to Lincoln Mason. I believe he's in Hulu. I think my brother's passed out, so I think it's just them, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it seems to be catching up a little bit. Cool. So I wanted to briefly recap. Before we get into this UFC Moscow card, I wanted to briefly touch on Bellator 233 and Cage Warriors 110. I just wanted to shout out a couple fun fights that happened in those. Were you able to catch any of Bellator 233 on Friday?
Yeah, I caught none of it.
Oh, okay. You said yes, and I was very surprised, and then now that makes a lot more sense.
That's what I'm gonna do. Yes, I caught none of it.
That's right. So the Fortunes both picked up wins in fairly impressive fashion. Tyrell Fortune, especially with the win over Azuna Nyamwu, former UFC fighter, I believe, right? Or was Nyamwu only a Contender Series?
I think he was Contenders.
Yeah, no, he fought once in the UFC. CFFC veteran and Contender Series vet. Fought once in the UFC, lost to Justin Ledet via split decision. Anyway, Tyrell Fortune got the win over him, which is pretty impressive. Leslie Smith and Arlen Blenko had a hell of a scrap. Picture a Leslie Smith fight. It looked like that. So, of course, I was a big fan of it. It was a lot of fun. Leslie Smith, I feel like, took the first round. Arlen Blenko definitely took the second round from what I remember. So it pretty much came down to the third from what it seemed. It was pretty competitive throughout. Leslie Smith was coming forward, throwing bombs. She definitely was on the front foot the entire time, making Arlen Blenko fire back and kind of get some respect. A lot of that like throw a combo in with the left high kick that Leslie Smith likes to do, which I'm a big fan of, especially since people sleep on the Diaz camp throwing left high, or not the Diaz camp, but the Scrap Pack. Their left high kick game is like underrated. Even Nate Diaz throws a left high kick that people forget he does every once in a while, mostly because he leans back in a weird way when he throws it. But it was cool to see Leslie Smith throw those long combos and just get into a brawl like she likes to do. And it was a tough competitive fight. I could see it go either way. Of course, I'm a Leslie Smith homer, so I feel like she wins every fight just by existing. But it was a competitive scrap throughout. Like it could have gone either way. So I definitely enjoyed it. Let's see, Muhammad Lawal. King Mo, oh man, unfortunately lost the first round via knockout to Andrew Capel. That was his retirement fight. He left his gloves in the cage. Huge respect to King Mo. He's one of my favorite fighters of all time. Fought in fucking everywhere. Dream. Here, let me actually go down and list all the promotions. By the way, you should look up King Mo's walkout picture. It's probably the best ever, Chris. While I'm going through this record. But King Mo has fought in Bellator. Sorry, go ahead.
You said look at his
Tapology picture.
Picture. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's what I want to say.
So King Mo has fought in Bellator, Ryzen. Sorry, I'm scrolling. Strikeforce, Sengoku. He fought in Dream too, didn't he? Or was it just Strikeforce? Oh, M1 was the other one. He fought fucking Mark Kerr in M1 in 2009, for goddamn sake.
Oh, yeah, I remember this walkout photo. This is great.
It's incredible. It's maybe I would argue it's the greatest walkout photo in all of time. Name any other fighter who was carrying an umbrella during their walkout. Or actually, technically, having an umbrella carried over them, to be fair. It's fucking incredible. Yeah. And there's pyro in the background. It's top 10 MMA pictures of all time. For King Mo to go out at 21-10 in his overall professional record, huge statement. Great dude from all accounts. And I just can't wait to see all the work that King Mo is going to put in at ATT on the coaching side. I think he is very easily a Mike Brown-esque kind of mind in that team, and I think he will do huge things if he commits himself to kind of coaching and game planning for the guys, because King Mo is very underrated at game planning, and while he gets a lot of accolades mostly for his wrestling pedigree, King Mo knows fighting. Like, King Mo watches more fights than just about anybody I know outside of like Grabaka Hitman and the guys on Twitter.
Oh, well, I don't know. He has a win against Mark Kerr back in the day.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. He has wins against huge names. I mean, Rampage, Tochi Ishii, Linton Vassal, Chet Congo, fucking all the way back to Seth Patrizelli.
I know you'll hate this question. What's your opinion on Dwayne Johnson playing Mark Kerr in some sort of movie?
Fine if he does heroin during it.
See, that's the thing. Like, I could see him playing the part because he can look the part. I just don't see him be. I mean, well, I don't know. It's a movie, so he'll do it. I mean, I've seen the show Ballers. He's kind of crazy on that. Actually, you know what? No, he can do it. I've seen Ballers. He can do it. He abuses fucking pain pills in Ballers. So
yeah, but like, I don't know. It's if you guys have you seen the documentary Smashing Machine?
No, but I need to. I know it's on HBO.
Oh my god! Oh my god, Chris. Okay, fuck everything we're doing. We're gonna watch. So this is gonna be the first ever commentary that we do that is an actual. So I only have seen Smash Machine probably.
It's a serious commentary.
Oh no shit! It's not gonna be happy fun. I mean, it'll probably be happy fun times, but
no.
We'll try not to get too inappropriate.
But I meant we're not gonna watch it.
No, I agree, but I think that...
Don't get me wrong. Knowing me, since I'm an asshole, I'm gonna say something cheeky, but only if it's gonna be mild. I'm not gonna like be all some bad. I'm like, oh, glad he's dead. Like, no. I'm not doing anything like that. Like, just like, It doesn't matter. We'll do it.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be interesting because you don't know it. You know some of the Pride, you know, like the big moments in Pride, but you're not familiar with like a lot of the just early UFC, early Pride stuff outside of like the main, like the first couple UFCs, which everybody's watched on Fight Pass,
or like the tournaments and shit.
Yeah. I think you would. Yeah. I think you'd find it very interesting. So you know what? Guaranteed. Next live stream we do, we'll do commentary on the Marker Smash Machine documentary, just because I want a fresh perspective on it.
To give you an idea.
But yeah, that'll be interesting. I don't know. We'll see what it actually looks like. But overall, yeah, that Bellator card was a lot of fun. The main card, I mean, some of the matchmaking on Bellator cards are kind of intentional, I'll say, for lack of a more insulting term. For example, no pun intended, John Salter won the main event in a way that I feel like a lot of people could have anticipated. But overall, it was I enjoyed watching the card. But Cage Warriors 110, I had a lot more fun during, actually. Did you catch any of this, or did you hear much about it going in outside of Eurobash and Severe MMA?
No, not outside of Eurobash, unfortunately.
This is kind of what I'm talking about. Like, it was a pretty cool. It was a pretty cool card, but like, nobody really talked about it outside of. I mean, this is kind of a big deal. It's Cage Warriors returned to Ireland for the first time in a very fucking long time. Like, I want to say a year. It might have been a little bit less than that, but it's been a very fucking long time.
So, looking at the schedule, we can do. So, you know, after the Blachowicz Joker, which is this coming weekend.
I think next weekend after that, right?
Thanksgiving. We could do anytime. Yes, that's I'm gone. I'm out of town on the 23rd, which is that Saturday, and on Sunday. So I can do like a Wednesday night because I'm off Wednesday. And we'll figure something out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out off air.
I'll check my schedules.
But yeah,
we'll do like a middle of the week commentary thing.
We'll make something happen.
Yeah, because after that, it's the. Oh no! Oh wait, I just realized. Oh no, we're good. There's 2 weeks off after this next one.
I thought
because 23rd is like after that. Yeah, so I'm gone on the 23rd. I can do the 30th, which is right after Thanksgiving. 100% I'm available. I should be. If
cool.
Not, it could be Sunday. Sunday, the what is it? November 30th. So I could do Sunday, December 1st. Is what we'll probably plan for.
Well, then keep an eye out for that. Hey, maybe we'll live
Sunday,
stream it. If you let us know if you guys are interested.
Yeah, Sunday, December 1st. Yeah, we'll do the Smashing Machine Sunday, December 1st. Is what we're gonna plan for. It'll be fun.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
for sure.
Sunday, December 1st.
Especially if we can get a live stream going. Like if guys like Judo Bill want to drop in chat and shit, we can even maybe Skype them in depending on what our setup looks like. So we'll see. Although I know Judo Bill is no interest in jumping in on Skype. So anyway, so the Cage Warriors 110 card.
This is like way too serious.
Yeah. So the Cage Warriors 110 card, I'll touch on very briefly. I mostly wanted to mention it was a lot of fun. I mostly just caught the main card. I mean, I caught the prelims, but I don't have a lot to say about them. So I was watching them offhanded while pretty already buzzed after the UFC card, I'm not gonna lie. But Ian Gary is a guy to keep an eye out on for sure. I guess I'll go from just the main card up. Nathan Fletcher got the win over Kieran Mulholland. He got this sub in the second round. Pretty solid top control from Nathan throughout the first. And then in the second, a little bit of scrambles. I believe there was a dope sweep in that fight, unless I'm confusing it with another one, which is super possible because I've watched way too many fights this weekend. But ended up getting the back, getting the choke, and getting a finish. And it was pretty impressive performance from Nathan Fletcher. John Mitchell, similar, was able to outpoint Eric Nolan over time. Two dudes who are very young in their career, and it'll be interesting to see how they progress. Ian Gary, another dude who's very early in his career, however, looking pretty impressive. Worked a lot more clinch game than I thought he would have. Definitely got pieced up at range a little bit, but he's only 3-0, so you kind of expect a little bit of that. But because he got bombed on at range, he got smashed with a giant overhand right by Figlock. But he was able to clinch up, kind of make it ugly, and eventually get the RNC in a way that he put dude completely out with the RNC. It was very dominant as soon as he got the back at the end of the first, like towards the end of the, or middle half of the first round. And from there on out, it was just him breaking him down and getting the finish. Joe McColgan got a super dope Darce in the Robbie Scott fight. It was super scrappy, and then in a scramble, I kept looking for him to go to it because Robbie kept turning from half guard right into it. He sunk that Darce super fucking deep and just pinned him up against the cage with it, and it was nasty. It was one of the nastier Darces you'll see. It was super fucking deep, so big win from him. And then Reese McKee got the finish at 103 over Hakan Foss via jab and then ground and pound. He caught him with a jab as he was throwing a kick, and it was so, he was like on one foot, and it caught him so fucking clean and put him down, and then from there he just got pounded out. But fun card. It seemed to drag a little bit, but maybe it was just because there was so much MMA that weekend, but overall I enjoyed it for sure. So for this,
nice, man. There's some fun finishes on that card.
Yeah. And it's one of those cards that, like, those are very, very young dudes in the Irish MMA scene, but they're people who, like, over time, they may become names. It's too young in their career to really know, and especially, I mean, some of them, it's so early in their career that, like, while there's a lot of promotional push behind them, it's hard to tell how much of that is just promotional push, how much of it is actual, how many of them are going to be able to actually make it to a bigger stage. But either way, a lot of fun fights, though, for sure. And then, man, this UFC on ESPN Plus 21 Magomedsharipov versus Calvin Kattar card. Oh, boy. Like, to be fair, there was a lot of fun fights on this card, but there was also a lot of shit that was just like, oh, man, it is clearly a Saturday morning card where you're getting rid of Russian dudes.
Yeah, so I know...
I believe we both went 8-5.
A lot of Russians lost. I know Habib's cousin got upset, and then your boy McNuggets ironically had a great ironic tweet. Ironically.
I mean, is it ironic if the rapist or the alleged rapist doesn't know it's ironic?
I think he was too inebriated. As GSP would say, Mr. McGregor, are you intoxicated?
Yeah, I guess we should hope he's intoxicated.
I mean, by the way, did you see that motherfucker's tweets? Did you see that motherfucker's tweets last week during 244? They were pretty great. As in, they were terrible, but great as they entertained me.
Yeah, I saw him posted on social media, but I avoided him in general.
Yeah, basically, he was as insecure and jealous as one would be. It was great. It's hilarious. I mean, it wasn't hilarious. I said, like, I would laugh.
Yeah,
literally,
not like ha-ha funny.
I laughed because how desperate he sounded. Oh, no, it's funny. Like, wow, that dude really, really, really is desperate. And this is sad because he used to be the main draw, and now he's an alleged rapist, and now he's a fucking idiot. So good for him. Anyways, Abubakar Nurmagomedov got submitted by David Zawada.
Actually, we should start at the bottom.
That was a big upset.
Or do you want to start at the top?
No, we should. Sorry. Here, we'll start at the top because I pretty much watched the top half of the cards.
Why don't we do that?
Piece of shit. I think I was at work. So, what do you think of Zabit Magomedsharipov performance against Calvin Kattar? I gave him the first 2 rounds, and I gave the last round to Kattar.
Yeah,
how you'd score it?
Yeah, same exact way. Also, shout out to this Jetty.
If this was
India Pale Ale that I'm drinking from. Where's this from? This is from Pete Sport. I believe it's the OB Pete Sport that makes this one, but it's fucking delicious.
I do think if this is 5 rounds, I think Kattar necessarily would have won. I don't know, but he was coming on strong at the end, man.
Felt that way,
Looking
right?
real good with the shots to the body. Yeah, and because he was gassing pretty hard.
You also gotta wonder though how much of
yeah.
that is Zabit not like knowing it's 3 rounds and knowing if he pushes hard he can win the first 2 pretty easy.
I honestly think I'm leaning towards more that he knows it's 3 rounds.
Yeah.
Because he was pushing that pace early real well.
Well, and also his management team was the one that specifically requested it be 3 rounds after it got moved. Because it was originally supposed to be on the UFC
So originally
Boston card.
it was 5, and yeah, that's right. Either way, I think Kattar's stock goes up. He's a tough motherfucker.
For sure. And honestly, like you had Kattar last week. I would have had Kattar if this was a 5-round fight. I just knew it was 3 rounds. Going in, you thought it was 5, right?
Yeah, I had no idea it was 3. That's why I chose Kattar, because I remember Zabit kind of guesses. That's literally the only reason why I picked Kattar.
I had a feeling. I think that was my exact words last week when I talked about it. I was like,
because I remember like the morning of. I remember the morning ago. I was like, wait, 3 rounds? The fuck?
Yeah. That was something that I specifically. It was John Anik. Shouts out to Anik and Florian. I don't give it a lot of love on this show, for a couple reasons. I like that show, but sometimes they say some shit that like. Sometimes there's a person who's known to quote other people without quoting them that says some shit on that show that I don't necessarily agree with, but and it's not the one who
stop copying and pasting, correctly. Man.
Yeah, for well, to be fair, I love one of the people on that. I love 2 of the people on that show, and neither one of them host battle bots. But
yeah. One of them's name might rhyme with Penny Dorian, but don't quote me on that.
Something like that. Actually, definitely quote you on that, since Kenny Florian does know how to quote things. But yeah, no, it was just one of those things where it's interesting to see that. I feel like that fight looks different. You know, if it would have happened in Boston, I feel like that fight looks different if it would have been 5 rounds.
In the Harvard Yard.
Yeah, like I feel like there's a lot of things about that fight that would have looked different if it didn't take place where and when it did, and it's weird. It's super favorable. Also, I'm not sure. Do you know who Zabit's manager is? I would just automatically assume it's Ali because he's out of Frankie.
I would imagine it's. I was gonna say Robert Brighton, but.
I believe. Here, let me look it up while you're. Well, why don't you go ahead? Oh, actually, did you see the? So I had Chris go ahead and pull up the best fight odds to see the closing odds on some of these fights, just because I'm kind of curious what they looked like.
Yeah, I got it. So the closing odds here on the main event. Just get. Whoa! No! Okay, that can't be right. Wow. Okay, this is entertaining. So can I tell you the median odds here, the average odds? So the average odds were. This Zabit was a minus 310, plus 240, right? The first odds I look at, and I will not name them because I don't want to embarrass them necessarily. Guess what the first odds I noticed were? This is hilarious. They had Zabit at a minus 1,000 to plus 402.
What the fuck?
There's no way that's right.
Because every other, though, every other odd. Well, that might be a place who does.
Every other odd is minus 310 to like 240.
That might be a place that does live betting, so that. If it got to the second round and they were doing live betting, obviously you would lean to beat that hard. Also, I went ahead and did a little bit of Google foo over here, and I bet you can't guess who Zabit's manager is.
I was saying Robert Brighton.
Yep. Shocking.
Checks out.
Cool, man. So before that, Alexander Volkov beat up some bum that nobody cares about. It was an expected win. And
he beat up Vlad the Inhaler.
He beat up oh god, who just tweeted out that picture? There's a very funny picture going around on Twitter. You know what I'm talking about. With the giant buck teeth. I forget the name of the dude. Anyway, before that, Danny Roberts got the fucking late finish over Zalim Imadaev. Did you see this fight?
No, but I saw his post-fight interview. He was hyped.
Dude, it was fucking wild.
Let's see this fight.
I feel like Zaleem definitely took the first round just off of crazy volume and pressure. Zaleem was just marching forward and throwing ridiculous volume and clearly starting to slow down. If you were to tell me going into this fight that Danny Roberts was going to push a clinch and then win via knockout late in the second, or if you were to tell me anybody,
wasn't Danny Roberts the guy who? Well, I was surprised because Danny Roberts infamously got knocked out in the clinch by Mike Perry with a short elbow to the face in the clinch.
Yeah, well, and one of the things, if you were to tell me going into this fight that someone pushed a clinch and got a knockout late in the second, I would not have picked Danny Roberts. But holy fuck, Danny Roberts looked great in this fight. Like he survived some real ass onslaughts early from Zaleem.
Good on him, man.
And then was able to just put it together. Kind of just push like an insane pace, especially through the clinch, and then bomb on Zaleem late and get the finish. It was super impressive.
I also didn't know that Ed Herman was fighting or alive. I didn't know that either.
Not only is he alive and fighting, he got the W. But what was the closing odds on the Danny Roberts-Zaleem fight?
Yeah. Closing odds. I'm just kind of aggregating this here. Minus 250 for Zaleem Imadaev to a plus 200.
Wow. That's a huge underdog for Danny Roberts, considering we both had him going in.
Yeah.
So we both had, some of these early picks, you had Kattar, I had Zabit. Again, we touched on that. You thought it was 5 rounds. I would have had Kattar if it was 5 rounds as well. We both had Volkov over some random dude they found on the street who was just assaulting random people. Danny Roberts, we both had getting the win over.
He is some asthmatic, yeah.
Yeah, we had Volkov beating up an asthmatic. Roberts, we both had over Zaleem, which to be fair, that Roberts fight I was not super confident about, but that's a big win for him and a real change in his, like, that dude's game is turning very, ironically enough, it's turning very Leon Edwards-esque, where he's rounding out his skill set in a way that is going to be trouble for a lot of people, I feel like.
I like it.
Before that, holy shit. I would just like to say that I think, did you see this Ed Herman and Bragimov fight?
I did not.
So I think Ibragimov...
I mean, it was on in the background at work, but...
Right. To be fair, I could see why it would not catch her attention. I think Ibragimov might have the worst fight IQ I've maybe ever seen outside of Dacha Lungiambula. Although, actually, no, worse, because I think Lungiambula only had a couple options and he ran out of them quickly, whereas Ibragimov just chose to make bad decisions consistently. Like,
But now I have to watch this because this intrigues me.
So if I was to tell you, hey, there's this athletic Russian dude who, when fighting Ed Herman, decided... by the way, let me rephrase. He's an athletic Russian who's known for finishing early, and his game plan was to throw a couple hard strikes and then go into the clinch against the cage against Ed Herman for 3 rounds. How do you think that would turn out?
I mean, I wouldn't be leaning towards Herman.
Really?
Just based on this, like...
I feel like that's the only way... Like, Herman is incredible in the clinch at this point in his career. That's his whole game. He's won all of his fights out of the clinch.
I can't remember Herman. I can't remember Herman except for on Tough. So I figure, like, wait, he's still alive. That's kind of like my joke. Like, I wouldn't bet on him now.
To be fair, I did not pick Herman going into this.
No disrespect to him, but...
I just thought Ibragimov would not have just shoved into the clinch and eaten knees and elbows for 3 rounds and decided that was how he was going to win. It blows my fucking mind. I'm going to go on record. I'm never going to pick Ibragimov again unless I see a complete different fighter the next time. Because that was literally probably the worst game planning I've ever seen in a fight. It's like, it's probably not the worst. I've seen some fucking rough game planning in some regional shows.
Was there Ed moment?
Dude, it wasn't even that. It's just like, if your game plan to beat Ed Herman is to walk into the clinch against the cage and then to hold him there and do nothing, that is... He literally came up training with Randy Couture. His entire game is built around striking with his back against the cage. What are we... And he's a smaller dude. What are we... Who the fuck instructed dude? Like, he was doing great on the outside early also. He's like, oh, I landed a couple decent shots on the outside against Ed Herman. You know what I should do? Hold him against the cage and just let him knee and elbow the fuck out of me for the next 10 minutes. So, not great. Not a great look. And I have zero faith in dude. Oh, speaking of people I have zero faith in and generally dislike, Anthony Rocco Martin got the win over Ramzan Emiev.
Oh, Mr. Harrison, yeah, he won. I didn't see this. How was this fight? Sorry, you could tell I'm barely awake. I'm trying.
It's how I feel like about most of this card, which is how the rest of this breakdown's going to go, because we kind of got the stuff that I thought was interesting.
So it's basically, hey, did you watch the card? I'm just like, duh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to tell you right now, I watched this fight twice, and I still don't have much to say about it. Like, yes, Anthony Rocco Martin definitely won that fight.
So that means you're telling me you fell asleep in that first round, and then the second watch, you fell asleep in the second round? So that you only watched one and third?
See, that's what I would do if I was intelligent and I respected my own time. I watched this fight all the way through twice, and I don't feel any better about it the second time. I don't know. Emiev had moments. Rocco Martin looked super unimpressive. I don't know. I wasn't overly impressed with either person's performance. I also just kind of... I've heard enough negative things about Anthony Rocco Martin that it's hard for me to pull it all for Anthony Rocco Martin, as I discussed on last week's show. Like, dude is just kind of... not a lot of redeemable qualities, we'll say. So...
Yeah, he belongs on a cartoon show.
Yeah, but bet against this motherfucker, as he would say. Yeah, so before that...
Well, all right, so how about this other fight?
Yeah, Gamzatov got the split decision. Oh, wait, actually, what were the odds on those last two? I gotta imagine Ed Herman was a big underdog.
Oh, that one. Average one looks like a minus 225 for Ibragimov to plus 175 to Herman.
Okay. So
and then Rocco's Modern Life is a minus 110 to a minus 140 of MF.
Interesting. Yeah, I can see those lines. Gamzatov got the win over Klidson Abreu, which, man, I don't know about that decision. That was a very close fight. To be fair, it was pretty competitive. Both dudes were looking pretty good.
So, Gamzatov, minus 120. Take that as you will. I don't know if that had to do with the decision making because I didn't see this. So I'm just telling you right now. I'm not trying to have it sway towards how they ruled it, but you know.
For sure, yeah. Gamzatov definitely. He looked good.
The odds factoring.
Both dudes look good, I think. Abreu as well. Gamzatov definitely was landing more kicks. Abreu was pushing the pace, kind of pressing forward. There was a couple exchanges. I don't know. I don't feel like I paid enough attention to this fight either of the times I watched it. It was close enough to where I don't feel like it, I'm fine with either decision. But yeah, this fight is a great encapsulation of how I feel about a lot of this card. Where it's like, yeah, I watched that. I actually watched that multiple times, and I still don't have a whole ton to say about it. Here, let me pull up my notes. That way, maybe I do have more to say about it. Maybe I have an actual fucking point on some of these. I don't trust that I actually do. Here, I'll go ahead and read off my notes. Nope. I literally don't even have notes about this fight. That's how I thought about it. So, perfect example of what I was talking about.
Well,
Watched it twice, zero
take
notes
it as
on it.
well. The odds on this, I already said it. This motherfucker's a minus 150 or plus minus 120. Brave. This next fight I did see. I think the whole world saw this finish. It's
Holy
pretty cool.
shit.
Magomedsharipov over Dalcha Lungiambula. Wow. Talk about like shades of Lyoto Machida against Vitor. Lyoto Machida against fucking what's his face? Randy Couture.
Yeah.
He knocked the fuck out with a front kick, the snap front kick.
A lot of people have been referencing both of those. There's
Anderson.
a lot of front kick finishes in MMA, so it's
And
hard to
Vitor.
narrow one down. But yeah,
Vitor knows all about getting front kicked in the face.
he sure does. But yeah, I don't like I forget who said it this week. But whoever compared Dalcha Lungiambula to Olali Bambose was 100% on the money. Actually, it's it seems like
I remember that guy, Bang Bus, right?
Yes, exactly. I was just about to say, I think it's probably Eugenius Robinson because I think Bang Bus was the name used. I think that's a Eugenius Robinson thing. No, it's not. Who is that? Oh,
No, I mean, it's definitely Bang Bus. Yeah, I can't remember again with that.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, it was competitive throughout the bit that it took place in. Uncle was able to work the body kicks and use a lot of feints to draw the power shots of Lungia. And Lungia just honestly looked a lot like Olali Bambose, where he's just throwing it fucking air the entire time with insane overhand hooks that put him completely off balance. And Uncle Iev was just able to kind of keep pushing the pace, push the clinch, and wear him down. And the volume and the cleaner shots started landing. Lungia just keeps getting more and more desperate. And Uncle Iev was beating the fuck out of him with elbows from half guard towards the end of the second, from what I remember. And then he got that giant front kick and follow up right hand for the finish. Nasty fucking finish. And impressive performance for sure. It's the kind of performance you would want to see against.
Yeah, the odds.
Like that.
I'll say based on how that finish was, the odds kind of match up to it. He Ankala was a minus 370 to a plus 280 over Lungiambula.
Yeah, it checks out.
You can go ahead. Based on the rest of these, I didn't really watch the rest of these. Next one was Rustam Habilov against Sergey Kondazko. What do you think of that?
I mean, this was literally just Rustam Habilov holding a dude against the cage the entire time. To be fair, he did get some takedowns, I believe, in the second.
Oh, so what the casual fans love.
Yeah, my notes literally say 10-9 Rustam in the first, cage control against the fence. 10-9 Rustam in the second, cage control against the fence. 10-9 Rustam in the third, top control. That's my notes.
Okay.
So.
Is that what we got to say? I could say the odds on it. I mean,
I'm sure it looked similar to how it sounded when I described it. Yeah.
Yeah. The odds on that. He was a minus 250 to a plus 195. The next fight we have was American fighter Karl Roberson submitted Russian fighter. A lot of Russian losses. Russian fighter Roman Kopylov rear naked choke at the near end of the third round. What a good win. Nice by Karl Roberson.
Karl Roberson looked sharp as hell in this fight. I was super impressed with his performance. He did a lot of pressing forward early in the first and pot shotting with super sharp, clean strikes. Some big flurries on the cage. No, wait, sorry. Am I mixing these notes up? I'm mixing these notes up. Oh, sorry. No, I'm absolutely mixing these up. Robertson in the first round was smashing leg kicks home. And that's why I gave him 10-9. Mostly just on volume landed and just smashing leg kicks. In the second, more hard leg kicks to the thigh. He was really fucking up Kopylov. Kopylov started having a lot of trouble really getting any significant offense off after that. He's just throwing a lot of single giant left-hand punches and coming up with a lot of air. I gave the second round 10-9 to Robertson, although it was leaning towards 10-8. Just on the amount of damage he was doing by the leg kicks alone, not to mention following up. And in the third, Kovalev came out fucking brawling and being a wild man. He did check 2 kicks, and then he had a terrible fucking eye poke, which made me real nervous that they were going to end that fight. But Robertson comes out even after the bad eye poke and the cut that resulted in it, and still just gets the body lock, gets the back, and gets the RNC late in the round. Super fucking impressive performance. He was piecing him up on the feet, had an injury, clearly couldn't see out of his eye after the eye poke because it cut him so bad and it gouged his eye so bad, and then still got the takedown against the cage and got the RNC. So big win for a dude who's mostly known for his glory kickboxing background, and keep a fucking eye out for Carl Robertson, especially at 185. That dude could be trouble for people.
And he was a underdog at plus 130 to a minus 160 of Roman Kopylov.
Except we
I mentioned this briefly before. Yep, German fighter David Zona submitted Habib Nurmagomedov's cousin Abubakar.
Yep.
Angle choke and near the middle of the first round. This a big upset. What are your thoughts on this? I don't really know what to think. I didn't see this.
Honestly,
I'll say the odds though. Abubakar on the average odds looks like he was. I mean, kind of okay. Looks like the average odds was a minus 280 to a plus 200.
yeah.
So take that as you will.
I mean, there's levels to this shit, I guess, is the lesson in this one. Abubakar did get subbed via Pavel Kush in PFL back in the day, in the 2018 tourney, I believe. Or I don't know if that was their... Yeah, I believe that was their tourney, not the regular season, but... I don't know. I don't put necessarily a ton in it. However, he did nothing to fight off that triangle. Like, Zawada... I almost said Judo Bill. Not Judo Bill. The other Bill. Bill Welker from MMA on the Rocks, who gave us a big shout out this week. Shouts to Bill from MMA on the Rocks. Big fans of him and Jeff, the Animal Wilson. But they talked about how Zawada had maybe one of the most distinct and, like, telegraphed setups of this triangle you'll see. And fucking Abu did nothing but let him continue to sink it in deeper. And then he switched the armbar, and then he just had no reaction to any part of the setup for the triangle. It was kind of crazy. So I don't know what that means for Abu, but the go ahead and look up the GIFs of Habib like walking away from the cage with Abu and like grabbing his arm like an angry father dragging a kid out of a store. It is a fucking real thing, and I feel like dude's gonna be swimming in a river trying not to drown here fairly
Wait,
shortly.
Habib did that?
Yeah, you could see while they're walking away from the cage, Habib like is grabbing him by the arm and dragging him away, like clearly there's about to be some
cousin. You have brought shame to you have brought shame to a family.
Exactly. Before that, Roosevelt Roberts took on Alexander Yakovlev.
Okay, he won decision.
Roosevelt Roberts is the dude
How did this fight go?
I mixed up Roosevelt Roberts with a guy, the white dude who fought last week. I forget who it was, but I remember last week being like, "Oh, that is not the person I thought it was." I was thinking of Roosevelt Roberts, so that was funny to see. But yeah, he got the win over Yakovlev.
Did the white guy also have dreads?
No, not at all. It was not even close to the same person. I don't know why I confused the two. Must have been the name. But
it had to have been the name. His name is probably Roberts. It got all the odds and all these fights are weird.
Yeah, it's been a pretty like
The fuck?
it was a pretty competitive week anyway, and I imagine the lines didn't move a ton unless there was some weird shit going on. But yeah, Roberts looked good in the first. He's pressing forward, pot shotting with sharp, clean strikes, some big flurries along the cage, and Yakovlev kept trying to push the clinch. But I gave the first to Roberts for sure. Then Yakovlev in the second was able to get the takedown and side control about like 30 seconds in, which is kind of how I thought this fight was going to go. A lot of chopping elbows to the head and body. A super dope sequence where Roberts looks to try and scramble and stand up. Yakovlev catches the darce, and then from the darce, Roberts keeps standing up, and as he's getting up, Yakovlev switches from the darce to the ankle pick and gets him back down. It's a fucking very cool setup. I think it was a darce. It might have been an anaconda, but I think it was a darce. I'd have to rewatch it. And then there was a really deep armbar attempt from Roberts also in the second, but Yakovlev was able to break his hand out. I gave the second round to Yakovlev. It was really close and competitive, but I gave it to him, so I had it tied going into the third. And then in the third, there's a guillotine attempt from Roberts that gets him. The guillotine attempt from Roberts is so deep that Yakovlev actually rolls to his back, and in that scramble, Roberts is able to get to mount, and Yakovlev is clearly starting to gas hard. He starts to rally and land some strikes, but then again, he goes for a takedown, almost gets caught in a guillotine, and ends up mounted by Roberts again in the third. So I had a 29-28 Roberts, but just off volume and top control, especially off the guillotine counters where he ended up mounting him. But super impressive performance by both guys, and a lot of fun to watch. It was if you guys did not catch that fight on the prelims and you like grappling at all, it's a fun one. There's some fun scrambles in that.
Yeah, Roberts looks like he was a minus 130 to a plus 100.
Yeah, and it was very competitive throughout. So definitely a fun one, and I recommend catching it. Speaking of fun fights, Pannie Kianzad got the win over Jessica Rose Clark, which we both had Pannie going in. I'm a big Pannie Kianzad homer anyway. Anybody who watched that season of Tough, I feel like it's hard not to like Pannie Kianzad. Plus, she just like seems fun and nice anyway. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a big Pannie homer, but yeah, she just looks sharp as shit. It looked like the first fight when they fought back in Invicta. I want to say Invicta 3, like forever ago. But yeah, Pannie was able to just
it's just a rematch?
Yeah, Pannie was able to just put together enough combos, a lot of hard, clean jabs, and like as Jessica Rose Clark would look to counter, Pannie would be able to land the follow-up shots. I definitely had 10-9 Pannie in the first, just finding success with the jabs and leg kicks. But Jess was able to land, with the jabs and left hooks, but Jess was able to land pretty decently with some leg kicks in the first. In the second, she just started bullying Jess around, just tripling up on the left hand, walking her down, throwing giant like combos where she's just landing consistently throughout. Jess did land a couple big right hands, one of which was an elbow actually. Really clean shots, but I think the size difference was a big factor in this. And then in third, more hard long combos from Pannie. So she won the decision 30-27 on my books. I would have expected to see a little bit more grappling out of Pannie. I think if Pannie Kianzad wanted to, she could have just held Jessica Rose Clark down and beat her up from top control. Because I think her wrestling and grappling is pretty underrated. But she absolutely just pieced her up on the feet. And arguably it's more interesting and kind of you can show she's working, like she always had a strong boxing background, but now that she's not fighting 145 anymore like she was, you can see she's leaning more towards her striking than she was saying Tough at the 145 weight class, where she was leaning a lot on her wrestling and cage control.
Nice, I'm glad we both got that right. I was going to see improvements. The odds on that, she was a minus 125 to minus 105.
See, that seems crazy.
Just Clark.
I feel like that should have been much wider, and I think I said that last week as well.
Other odds, though, actually, no, I lied. A lot of these odds were even, so I lied. Minus 112, even. Okay, yeah, minus 111 even. Oh, okay, yeah, minus one. Okay, yeah, they're even. They're even. Yeah.
And then the last fight was Davy Grant taking on Gregory Popov, which you already know, as I tweeted out this week. I'm not ever going to pick against a fighter named Popov. Are you fucking kidding me, bro? It's never going to happen.
Yeah.
That dude presented our sponsors this week, as far as I'm concerned. If I had any more...
I'll let you take this away because I'm literally falling asleep during this, and I apologize.
Well, so that's all I had, literally.
To be fair, it was so slow at work. Don't tell my boss, but I was drinking all day at work because there was no one there for about 2 hours. It was great. I was watching shitty football.
To be fair,
it was fun.
I may or may not have been drinking off and on since 8:30 a.m. when I thought we were recording.
I may or may not have been drinking some very, very, very good some very good barrel-aged rye barley wine.
Ooh.
That was about 13.5%. And it was very, very good.
Ooh, that sounds real good.
It's very dangerous.
I may have to go to a place where you work sometime.
Yeah, you need to soon.
I know.
I recommend you come on a Thursday or Friday. I know that's when we like to record, but that's when the barrel room is open and we have all the barrel aged stuff. And you would like to get down with that.
You know, maybe this Friday afternoon we'll do it after we record or something. I'm
down. Yeah, if you're off this Friday, we can do it because on Friday I go in at 4:30.
Cool.
So it's doable.
Cool. Well, on that note, I'll just mention here briefly that Grant got the win over Popov. Mostly just posturing from the outside. Really good foot movement. Looked sharp in the hands. In the second, he got a dope Kimura to armbar attempt from Popov. But David Grant was able to subscribe it, and he kept it close. The grappling is pretty even, but he landed a big right. So I actually had the first two rounds for Grant, and then the third for Popov, just off landing good elbows and solid kicks. So I had 29-28 Grant, which is how that ended up shaking out, it seemed. So, yeah, overall dope card. And, I guess, well, so Chris, does that mean since I'm off on Friday, we're recording Friday morning, right?
Yes, we are.
Cool.
And I recommend you come into my work, man.
Yeah,
I'll hook it up.
We're gonna do that.
Get you some good deals, man.
Yeah, I'll tweet out we'll tweet out something while I'm there of me drinking beers with Chris. But next week we do have Leon Blachowicz versus Jacare Souza in the main event along with oh my god, they're trying to kill Shogun Hua by feeding him to Paul Craig. But man, there's actually have you looked at this card?
Jesus. No, but let me check it out.
So there's actually a lot of fun fights. Like some of them are fairly unknowns, but even the matchups of guys you may not know the name of, they're very well matched. Like Francisco Trinaldo, Bobby Green, great. Ariana Lipski versus Verona Macedo, very well matched.
Ooh, you got the. I know Reddit will love this matchup. You got the very marketable matchup of Ariane Lipski versus Veronica Macedo.
Yeah.
That's why I call that the marketable matchup, to be nice. Trinaldo Green is tight.
Yeah.
Oh, we got the Grigori dude.
That's what I'm saying.
There's a lot of fun fights. Yeah, that motherfucker. Oh, James Krause is back.
So against Sergio Moraes. That's a dope fight. Oliveira versus Jared Gordon is tight. Mauricio Shogun Hua versus Paul Craig is like, eh. But, man, yeah, there's Tracy Cortez coming out of Invicta with some solid fucking wins, if I remember right. Here, let me pull up her record, because she's coming off of the wins over Maria Agapova and Erin Blanchfield in Invicta. Oh, sorry, the Agapova win was in Invicta series, or was in a Contender series.
I'll say this, spoiler alert, BJ Blazkowicz is probably going to send Jacare into the shadow realm. Because it hasn't looked good for middleweights going up.
Yeah, Jacare's a little bit different of a middleweight, though. Like,
he is fucking huge.
He's huge, but like also, I think a lot of the problem I felt with Jacare's game recently is that weight cut seemed to be killing him as a dude who relies on his grappling.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be interesting. I don't know. Jan of Rivera, Rivia, Jan of Rivia, as Conor Rebus refers to him. He is.
Oh yeah, because I remember they asked him like, "Who's your favorite hero?" He's like, "Geralt."
Yeah, he loves The Witcher. It's my favorite shit. Fucking, if you guys have not played The Witcher, what are you doing?
That's hilarious. I forgot about that.
Yeah, but yeah, Jan of Rivia taking on Jacare Souza is like, by the way, maybe two of the nicest dudes you'll ever hear interviews from. Like, they're a ton of fun. I love everything they do. They're very soft-spoken, but in, like, the best of ways.
Oh, that reminds me, since we're on the topic of video games, and I am totally sober, I played, what was it? Oh, yeah, Obsidian's Outer Worlds. I beat the game. Fantastic game. Very good. If you like New Vegas, it's amazing. My only complaint, it's a very short game. Only like
how long?
Maybe 30 hours. Got the main campaign.
Yeah,
like 30 hours.
30 hours is actually kind of nice.
It's short if you've played the other Fallouts. My point being, like, New Vegas is way longer. Fallout 4 is, but it doesn't matter. It's a very good game.
For that style of game,
it's cool. I'm gonna play it again. Yeah. There's definitely gonna be a sequel though, 100%, and I'm looking forward to it. Very good game. I don't really. Literally the only flaw is I thought it was too short. That's it. Then they know it's a good game. Like, everything, Dart's gameplay is great. The story is great. Yeah, I just thought it was too short. Other than that, if you have Game Pass, whether it's on Windows or Xbox, get it. Or if you have the money to get it, just get it. It's a fun game.
Yeah.
Really cool.
I'm gonna pick that up for the end of the year. The Game of the Year discussions.
And the only game that I'm questioning on getting, because it looks so confusing, is that Death Stranding. I don't know what to do with that game.
How do you feel about carrying
honestly,
packages across the planet?
I'll say this. From what I've seen, I have zero interest, to be honest. It looks great graphically. I know the story's probably cool, but from the game, I'm like, dude, I just cannot do it. It just looks so fucking boring.
I'm going to do you a favor right now. I would suggest waiting like 3 months till like December, January. I think it's going to be on deep discount. While I think the game is cool as shit and going to be very interesting in retrospect, I don't think it's going to sell a lot.
Good reviews.
It's getting interesting reviews. It's not.
Or is it mixed?
It's very mixed in that, like, it's doing something very unique. And by nature, that's
Let me guess, the critics like it, but the fans hate it?
Not even that, actually. A lot of Kojima fans like it. A lot of critics are like, I've spent 30 hours carrying packages across a fucking empty planet.
Okay, fuck that. I'm sorry. It's like, I get it, dude. I'm only saying that because I have played games where you have patience in it, and it turns out great. Don't get me wrong. I've played games like that. But games like that, I feel like almost, they shouldn't be like a Telltale style, but like, I don't want to literally just be like, okay, I'm running.
Yeah. But like, there, to be fair, there's some, from what I've heard, it's interesting. It just kind of beats the story over the head a little bit. Like, it's not subtle at all, which a Kojima game that has a plot like that that's not subtle makes me nervous, because it's just gonna be like,
I mean,
pretty brutal. But
I'll say this: there's a meme more in Reddit. It shows Norman Reedus on a toilet, and they give you an option. It says, go to the bathroom standing or sitting. It's like, oh, so you're giving me the option to shit or piss. Thank you, game.
That's a Kojima game.
That's a real thing. That's a real thing.
Hey,
like, oh, cool.
Dog, I took plenty of showers in Metal Gear Solid 5. That's all I'm saying.
So did I. I played on Xbox when it was like free.
To be fair, that game was so good. Up until you played the rest of the
My problem with that game is, I was going to say I liked it, but I was like, oh, wait, it's so boring being in the Middle East. This is lame. I'm sorry. Like, it's just so bland to me. Like, the gameplay is fine.
Great.
Yeah.
Especially when you play it on PC and you figure out you can mod in the Arrested Development intro as your helicopter music. That's when it gets real good.
Wait, really?
Yeah. So every time the helicopter drops in, it's just
amazing.
Boom, boom. It's real good.
Oh my!
It's real good.
Yeah, that sounds.
Anyway, we're not a video game podcast. Hilarious. I guess we'll shut this shit down here. But we will be back Friday morning. We're gonna do a live show. breaking down the upcoming card in the UFC Sao Paulo card in the
It's like Sao Paulo.
Yeah, Iba
Brazil.
Gymnasium. Should be fun. Cool, man. Well, we'll be back then. Do you have anything you need to shout out? You got anything coming up?
No, but I've got ideas again, so that means there is something coming up soon. Because there's a lot of misty fighters in the ranks. Let's just say that.
There sure is. Cool. Well,
a lot of misty stories. A lot of misty stories in the ranks, especially unfortunately with boxing crossing over with MMA potentially again, and I've got a lot to say about that.
That's right. It's
hilarious.
It's looking like Silent Hill out there. Just nothing but mist.
Yes.
To tie it back around.
Yes.
Well, on that note, we'll go ahead and
or if you're in Hong Kong, it looks like tear gas in a subway train car. Just kidding.
Boy.
But yeah.
Well, on that note, we're gonna go ahead and wrap
you had to bring it back to that
before
motherfucker.
Winnie the Pooh tries to fuck us. But you guys can always check us out, thesoundofviolence.com.
Oh, bother.
Send us an email, chris@thesoundofviolence.com or svpod@gmail.com. Theoretically, it goes to the same place. And yeah, if you hit us up on Twitter, I know JF757 hit us up with some recommendations this week. Shit, that was one of the things I meant to get to is MMA Oddsbreaker. Has been doing a daily podcast that's been really good. So that's one of the ones I'm going to catch next week as a new show. Because they've been doing like a daily kind of like 10-15 minute breakdown of news stories that I enjoy those kinds of shows. So that'll be cool to check out. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah, in the meantime, hit us up on Twitter. Let us know what we're sleeping on. Let us know how our video game taste is hot trash and how we should really just be playing Tetris 99 all the time or whatever shit you're into. And until next time, everybody, go do something decadent. We out. Bye.
Liked by The Sound of Violence.